Welcome back to another episode of the Rollin in My 5.0 podcast with KASL Customs and the infamous project. Folks, our deepest apologies for not getting a podcast out last week. With everything we had going on with Ponies in the Smokies, between trains, planes, automobiles, 6,600 miles traveled, there was absolutely no way that we could get a podcast out to you last week, so please accept our apologies. Now, this week's going to make up for that because you are going to get an inside look at everything and anything behind the scenes leading up to, during, and after Ponies in the Smokies. So please enjoy this podcast. Okay, what's happening, buddy?
Oh, not too much.
Getting settled back in?
Yeah, I was gonna say, seeing the green dragon in your background is like, it seems like yesterday, but a long time ago at the same time.
Hashtag not AI.
There you go.
Hey, I got to show you one of these. Not to rub it in, but I'm pretty excited about this.
Oh, brought yourself back a little something, huh?
You know, buddy, and I got lots to fill you in on, but maybe starting right here wouldn't be a bad place with the beer. So, bought some beer on the way back. So this is in Spokane, or Spokane, as you like to say it, Washington. And Washington's not known for being, a reasonable place to make, or I guess live a life, right? Cost wise, fuel's $4 a gallon or more, and whatever. It's still cheaper than Canada, but not the cheapest state around. Well, anyway, I wanted to see what beer was like down there. So we're getting like our 700th tank of fuel before we cross the line, right? And go into the beer cooler at just standard issue gas station. So the one that stands out to me the most is Corona. It's usually what me and some of my buddies like to drink around here. And for 12 Coronas here is just under $40, like 38 something.
Damn.
For 18 Coronas in that gas station was $18.59.
Right. So the 40 is Canadian, call it 30, right? So, but still, you're pretty much half price.
Well, yeah, and I'm comparing more beer too, like 12 to 18.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Better than half.
Oh, God, yeah. Like highway robbery,
So you saw the pints of Miller and you were like, fuck it.
Yeah, I had Corona in my hand. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm taking pints. And not only that, so to some, this may seem like ridiculous information because you've lived near a border and crossed it 100 times and you know how this all goes. But for the folks in the South that maybe haven't been up here, this could serve as news. So we have to announce the booze that we're bringing back into Canada. You have to announce everything, right? But booze is one of them. And now there's some cheeky little workarounds as long as, tailgates aren't dropped, doors aren't opened, whatever, because it's just a verbal announcement. How much alcohol are you bringing? And I had 18 of these pint-sized cans, even though their measurement that they give you an allotted amount for or whatever is like ounces of booze. So I just said, yeah, I got 18 beer. And one assumes a can of beer, 355 mil or however many ounces a can of beer is, right? And that was just the only question I got asked. And anyone that's crossed the border as much as I have knows you don't say anything if they don't ask, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, perfect, he goes. And now I can't remember how many ounces of beer you can bring. There's an allotment for beer, wine, hard bar, all the shit. But that was enough for him. I'm like, sweet. Maybe I got a little bit more beer with me than I should have, but I ain't saying FA.
I forgot about that other case that I bought the night before, whoops.
Okay. Funny enough, leads me into another story. So on our way home, we're going through Wisconsin, and the whole time through, I'm like, what the hell is Wisconsin known for? I know it's something, right?
Jeez.
So, dude, it hits me as I go into the gas station store and I'm walking around I'm like, fuck, there's a lot of cheese in here, right? So I'm like, well, fuck me. I got to buy some cheese. And we like in my household, we like old, like snappy cheddar cheese. So I find the oldest shit I can find on the shelf, like 11-year-old cheddar or whatever, go up to buy my stuff. And all we got is just gas station related shit, bottle of water, maybe a chocolate bar, and this block of cheese. And it's not very big. It's maybe 3 by 3 by 3 inches, right? Anyway, she goes, that'll be 65, whatever. I'm like, holy fuck. Did you ring this stuff in twice? That block of cheese was $25.
Well, it was like a fine bottle of Cabernet or something, aged 11 years.
Yeah, true. I mean, yeah, anybody that's had this cheese or likes this cheese knows you pay more for older shit. But I was still of the mind, right, where most everything in comparison to Canada is always cheaper in the US. But cheese is easily pound for pound in Wisconsin, that's for sure.
Damn, they know what they got.
Yep, but it's good.
Nice.
We threw it in the box of the truck to keep it cold the whole way home. And then what made me think of this was when we're at the border. You got any booze? You got any tobacco? You got any whatever? Yeah. And then he goes, is that all? I'm like, yep. And Pro goes, the cheese. I'm like, oh shit. We got a block of cheese too. I said, and we've never been the type that drag groceries across, although we know a lot of people that do because it's so much more advantageous down there. And I always found it weird that they ask you, do you got any fruits and vegetables, meats, whatever? And I was like, how the fuck are people bringing food across when that's one of the questions they ask, right? Because it leads one to think that you're not allowed to bring it, right? Well, as it turns out, we found this out during that little Christmas run we did to Seattle. I asked the border guard because we had the time and we weren't bringing anything across or whatever. The guy seemed like a good guy too. And I said, hey, what's the deal? Like, can we bring food across? And he said, yeah, you can. The issue becomes if you have any or show any sign of bringing it across for commercial purposes. So that's why they ask the questions.
Right. So if you're going to open a cheese stand, you were fucked.
Right. Pretty well, or you got to announce it and pay the piper, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I know.
Well, fair enough, right? Because it's probably anything that's of convenience and significant price variation, right? Because again, you're going south to take advantage of, I'm sure if you had enough books where you were buying them in US price tag versus Canadian price tag, that they'd, hound you the same way. So
yeah,
not surprised.
No. And actually the guy we had, I don't know, the way this story will unfold is going to be all over the place, but the guy we had when we crossed, now this was at 2:45 a.m. on Monday morning. And now I don't know how other folks' experiences have been being a Canadian citizen, going to the United States and then crossing back into Canada. But on the whole, I have always had more grief coming back to my own country. Every fucking time, it never fails.
No, I could
Going to
echo that. Like from personal experience, I echo that, and just about anybody that I know says the same thing. It's harder to come back home.
Which is the exact opposite of what you would think, right?
Yeah.
But and then when you're going, the American border guards, unreal, right? They run you through the standard issue questions, but then they immediately go into like just back and forth BS type stuff. And have fun, spend lots of money down here, do the things. Yeah. It's like, what a contrast. But yeah, this guy on the way back, traveling with kids, right? So they always want to roll down the back window, verify photos in the kids' faces. They'll typically ask the kids a few questions, whatever. Well, both my kids were sleeping at 2:45, and no window rolled down, no nothing. Where are you coming from? What did you do? What are you bringing in? And thanks. Have a nice day.
Right.
Didn't didn't even look in the trailer. I mean, I could have had immigrants nuts to butts for days back there, and they never looked. Nothing.
I bet you had somebody, a proper Canadian, who is nothing more than just completely fucking aggravated at the whole situation that's going on right now. Because funny enough, during COVID, when they did mandatory, so if you flew into Canada, you had to do a mandatory 2-week quarantine in a hotel. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that. So when we came down to Texas, we flew into Texas, no problem. Going home, we flew into Detroit and then took like an airport limousine across the border. Because if you traveled across by land, you didn't have to do the hotel thing. Like,
Yeah.
makes no sense, but whatever, right? So
None of it did.
yeah. So when we got to the border, the Canadian border guards, like, because they had that stupid mandatory app. Well, they said it was mandatory, right? You had to fill it in the Arrive Canada app or whatever the hell. That was another inside make someone rich fucking scheme, right? And he was like, you guys have to fill out some stupid app thing in quarantine for 2 weeks. We're like, yeah. He's like, yeah, son of a bitch. He's like, Trudeau, son of fucking Castro. And I'm like, okay, coming from the border
Yeah.
guard, I'm like, okay, I know where you're at, buddy. Like, we're all good. And, and that's the thing, right? The border security is border security. Like, everything that was COVID related was whatever, the health authority or whatever. So it was literally, you thought everything was good until boom, you're out of the customs parking lot, and then the health authority hit you and said, okay, you got to fill this shit out and do this, and we're going to track you for your quarantine. And that all ended up being a whole big sham as well, as we know. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice when you get real people. And I think like times like these is when the real people really come out, and it's not just somebody pounding their chest or trying to give themselves job securities. It's an interesting time, man.
No, it's so true. I was talking to a buddy here today, and he was asking me questions about the trip and told him about our smooth border crossing. And we were both sharing war stories of like being there for hours and having your vehicle picked apart. I've fortunately enough never had this occur, but I know people that have, where like they'll literally tear the seats out of your vehicle, they'll tear the door panels off it, and then they just give you the keys back and go, "You're good to go," and you got to put your car back together. Like,
Yeah.
this is no joke or no exaggeration, folks. This is like true shit. Um, yeah, he was telling me a story about the border guard, again, coming back to Canada as a Canadian, was all hung up on his camera, of all things. He goes, he's accusing you. And that's the thing, too. This is the opposite of innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty automatically in these people's eyes. And he goes, yeah, you bought that camera down there. I know you did. He's like, what are you talking about, dude? Look at it. It's beat right up. Oh, you bought it at a pawn shop. Like, accuse and accuse and accuse. He goes, and this was a bunch of years ago, back in the film days. He goes, dude, go get the photos developed. Like, there's pictures of me back at home in Canada on there. Like, fuck off, you know?
Yeah.
And then once you give them, you got to walk a fine line with how much pushback you give them, because they technically do have the powers of God to make your life a living hell. But then they just get tired of trying, and they're like, okay, whatever. Yeah, on your way. Like, what the fuck, man? You know?
Yeah. Well, I think like, it's part of that training where they like have all these strategic questions and ways of, trying to get you to slip up or whatever. Like the pawn shop thing, I could see that, just trying to see what the person's reaction is. But yeah, sometimes they just take it too far. And you're absolutely right. Cause like you want to just kind of be a dick back, but it's at what point is it worth it? And let me tell you, man, when I brought my red E39 M5 across, that I was ready to go to jail.
Yeah.
So for anyone that's, well, I guess a lot of people probably wouldn't know all the legalities. So the US, right? Like if you got, and this was a big thing with the Skylines, you know, people were bringing them in as no motors or disassembled or whatever, reassembling them. And technically, you know, the US is 25 years if you're bringing in a vehicle that's not compliant to North American specs. And Canada is only 15 years. So the M5 just hit the 15-year mark at the time. And funny enough, this was done. Jordan just sent me the message, I think this morning, saying, dude, 7 years ago, we were cruising the M5 across the country. And so you're probably wondering, well, how did the car get into the US to begin with? Well, you can bring any vehicle into the US for a year on a guest permit. You run on your foreign license plate. So my Dubai number plate was on the car, got a 1-year pass, and it's actually dictated by the EPA. The EPA actually gives you the permit. It's not like a DMV, it's not some other ministry authority. It's actually the EPA that you apply for this. And this is how, like, when the gumball rallies happen and all this shit, people get the EPA cert and they fly or ship their cars over, and away they go on their foreign license plates. So, right, got the car shipped into Texas, and we did the, you know, Texas, New Orleans, Florida, picked up Lewis, and ironically, we ended up in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, did the Old Smoky Jack Daniels thing, and I had all the paperwork and everything, right? And this is my vehicle, technically. This isn't like I bought it and I was shipping it into Canada or whatever. And kind of same thing, right? We pull up late, as I think we hit a Pistons game in Detroit. And then, you know, we're crossing around 11 p.m., something like that. And, you know, I give all the paperwork like, yeah, no, I'm Canadian. This is my car from the UAE. Need to import it. And lady comes back with my paperwork. She's like, well, I got bad news for you. We can't let this car in the country. And I'm like, why? Like, it's not admissible into the country. And I'm like, fuck. You know, and Canada, it's funny, right? So they've got another, what is it? Which you would know, right? The Registrar of Imported Vehicles.
Yeah. RIV.
Yeah. So RIV, but RIV only dictates 15 years and newer. So they're the ones that are looking for compliance stuff, like your airbags work, your bumpers are crash test rated, your daylight, or daytime running lights work, all that stupid bullshit, child seat belt, fucking fasteners in the rear. So I'm like, the car doesn't fall underneath any of that. I'm like, it's over 15 years. Go look at the manufacture date. And like, no, it's not coming in. I'm like, I'm not leaving. And I'm like, here's an email from RIV. Here's an email from this person. I'm like, and I had everything, man. And like, I remember Lewis being like, keep calm, but like he didn't realize I was like armed and equipped with all this stuff. And dude, it was like a 30-minute ordeal with this lady that was trying to like pound her chest and think that she was right. And like, I would have been stuck, right? Because the car, I guess, technically could have stayed in the US, but I would have had to export it. So that the rule with the US is you got to prove that that car has left the country within a year, or it's subject to be like destruction. Like, they will take that car and they will fucking crush it. So, yeah, it was a little bit of a testy situation. And again, coming back to the more difficult to come into your home country, is the US didn't care. We literally drove this car 3,000 miles at this point. And guess what? 20 minutes into driving into Canada, once this bitch finally let us in, get pulled over by the cops.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's the whole, where's your license plate? I'm like, don't fucking need it. Where's your insurance? I'm like, well, I had insurance in the US. My Canadian insurance is as soon as I cross that border, because everything changed. I went from a car that was technically on vacation in the US, so I had like this binding policy just to cover me, right, while I was in the US, but that thing expired the second I hit the border. And at that point, my State Farm from Canada kicked in. And of course, it's on my phone. This guy wants a piece of paper. I'm like, dude,
Right.
I live in fucking Dubai. I'm like, my mailed documents are sitting at a Canadian address right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's on my phone. And he was giving same thing. I'm like, why is it I just drove 3,000 miles in the US across God knows how many states, waved at cops because the car was stickered up. Like I had what was on it? DXB, which is the Dubai airport code, to YYZ, which is ironically the license plate I got in Ontario, right? So it was like hashtags, ats, and whatever, you know, making a thing. So like you knew the car wasn't from around.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just took literally 20 minutes back in home country. Nothing but fucking problems, dude.
Wow.
So yeah, communist Canada. There you go.
It's true, bud. You know, and I talked to enough people here at the Ponies in the Smokies about things along these lines, right? And you know, I won't get into whatever the nitty-gritty of it all, but like the overarching scenario that I think everyone can relate to, and this combines all the fuckery that those of us from Canada are familiar with when you're trying to bring stuff across the border and how bad we get pinned. And really, it all just boils down to taxes and bullshit. And this stuff's pushed through as like, I don't know, some sort of like justifiable thing that's going to create wealth for the country, this, that, and the other thing. But what it really boils down to is something as simple as like state tax or income tax or whatever. It's just another tax which we have. I don't even think it fit on 100 pieces of paper the amount of taxes we got up here, right? But um like I said to folks, I'm like, I'm okay with taxes moderately, right? And I want to know where my tax dollars go. Like people talk, and a lot of people brought this up when I was down there too, like free healthcare up here. I'm like, listen, you don't understand. Like it is such a joke. You know, like I've been in the emergency room with my kids waiting over 12 hours and they're bleeding out, you know, and I'm like, how is this a good thing? You know? So I don't think anyone really truly minds paying taxes as long as you know where your money's going and you feel like you're getting value for it. You know, it's like
Yeah.
paying an internet bill, whatever your internet bill is, $100 a month, 150. I don't mind paying that, but give me what I pay for. Like make it work, you know? Nowhere else in the world is it okay to pay for something that doesn't work, like a tax. And
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, we don't need to go too far on that one, but like that is a for all the regular, you know, working folk like us, it's like, listen, we're okay paying this stuff, but make it justifiable. Okay. We like street lights, we like fire departments, we like paved roads, we like all this stuff. But the minute that you start pulling out of my pocket a little too much and I don't see the value in it, now we got problems.
Yeah. Oh, and it's funny too, right? Like this whole tariff thing that's going on. And it's I don't understand it because Canada has been essentially tariffing via tax anything that's brought into the country that was valued over $20, which I think they did increase it to 40. But you know, you've talked
Yep.
about it time and time again. Every time that you get an order in, it's boom, at least 25% of a hit. Now all of a
Totally.
sudden the US decides to do the same thing and everyone's got a problem with it. Like,
Yeah.
come on, let's be real.
It
Like, don't get me
it's
wrong,
so true, man.
it impacts the fuck out of me. Like, right, like every single Godzilla now is like hovering in limbo.
Yeah.
But you know, it's the reality. Like, it's something's got to be done. I get it.
I was chatting with well actually that gauge that you got for me from Snow Performance. I was talking to this Chris at Nitrous
By the
Express
way,
there and
by
mhm.
the way, I sent you that video of me on treatment the other day. You notice that the label on my chemo bag was smaller than the label that was on your gauge.
It's true. That's a heavy duty label too. Like that took a proper knife to cut through. Like,
Oh man, I
jeez.
still can't believe it. Like, and you had two of them, like one on each
Yeah.
box.
So Yeah, I was talking to him and he was kind of familiar with Canadian stuff because he's shipped stuff up here, right? So he kind of knew the runaround and was more than willing to send this to you for me and whatever. But I said to him, I'm like, Chris, just so you understand, like the absolute ridiculousness of this, I said that my grandmother used to live in Florida and she would send us stuff for our birthdays. And I can still remember being a kid and getting a pair of 501 Levi's because, again, I grew up in a very small town. We had like the store was called Sands, was the only clothing store in town. And this is like worse than Walmart. Okay. So, anyway, this was a big event. Grandma was sending us up some 501s. And at the time, this would have been, I don't know, early 90s, right? She probably bought these things for $50, let's say, right? Would have been an expensive pair of 501s back then. And with what you said about the $40 like importation cutoff, like that's anything over $40 you pay. My grandmother, if she was to send me those jeans today, I would have to pay to accept her gift. Like, this is how ridiculous it is. Like, I didn't pay anyone for anything. And there's a handful of people that probably listen to the pod that have sent me stuff that I've had individual conversations with to tell them, like, listen, whatever you do, don't put the amount on the ticket, like, really, because, and they're like, what do you mean? Like, I'm just sending you a gift. I'm like, honestly, this is how bad it is. You can send me a gift for anything under $40, no taxes, no duty. Anything over 40, I get pinned. And it's that wild, you know? And a lot of people fill that out just thinking like, oh shit, if it gets lost in the mail, at least we've got a value attached to it that we can go back on the shipper to. And that's how whatever this whole thing gets all jerked up. But that's how nuts it is. You send me a gift, I have to pay to receive it.
Yeah.
And like you said, dude, it's nothing. It is to a T, like to the definition, what everyone's all worked up over these tariffs. That's what that is. Like, Canada has tariffed its fucking citizens forever.
Yeah. Oh.
Anyway, fuck it.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's
go
talk
to
about some good stuff.
Yeah. I'll try to give you like just kind of the Coles notes because fuck, and quite honestly, that's all I can remember on the trip home. Like, dude,
it must be a blur, man, because like I know, when you shotgun, a 24-hour trip or something, or well, we did a lot of that and some of our adventures as well, right? And you just kind of get to where you're going and like just super blur zone. But like you actually, you know what I mean? Like the whole trip down, absorbing all the new scenery. Then you got a car show in the mix. Like you got, wife, kids. So it's, not just, I guess, at a guy's whim, if you will,
yeah,
right? And then a freaking massive drive home. Like I honestly, and like you were putting in hours, like it'd be illegal if you were a trucker. Like you would, like
for
if you had a
sure.
logbook, you would have been fucked. Like,
Yeah.
like unreal, dude.
Yeah. No, it's so true, buddy. The best way that I could sum it up to you, because you lived it with me, was it was like driving to Detroit in the shit box for 3 days straight.
Oh,
Like, flat out, like, oh, look at that. Boom, you're on to the next thing. Like, just go, go, go. And doing it in a half ton that under prime conditions isn't a terrible tow rig, but I was at least 60% of the time in not good conditions. Like, it fucking struggles to tow, even
so
on
are
the
you
flat
like,
shit.
mom, you should really consider trading this truck in.
Yeah.
Might be a
Yeah.
little fast.
Sorry. Yeah. The tongue is hanging out of the grill, Mom. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's definitely no carbon on the valves. That's for sure. I know that much. So yeah, anyway, buddy, we set off and you lived this with me, but to give everybody a bit of the update, we were, I guess, at least getting some weather warnings on the day that we were all going to leave, which you can talk about that or whatever. But anybody's caught Chris's updates on social media, like he didn't even want to drive through this shit because, well, we came to find out on the trip because once Britt got pro hooked up with all these weather guys on Facebook and shit, she was just all in on this stuff, right? The whole ride home.
She's like a nominated weather chaser.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And she's got this guy that Britt got her onto with, have you seen that fucking vehicle they have? It looks like a
It's like
speed train.
yeah, it's sort of like what was that with Helen Hunt? What there was Twister and then the other one, right? They were trying to
Yep.
get the robot things to get sucked up by the tornadoes.
Yeah, man. It looks like a high-speed train, right?
Yeah.
Super aerodynamic and stuff. So we're following all that, and we had made the choice to go north as far as we could first and foremost to try to get up and around the tip of where all these warnings were occurring straight up through Tornado Alley. And through the sheer luck of the foxbody gods, the only shit we hit was in Illinois. We got some like heavy rain. You could tell it was just starting to maybe freeze and go to hail, but it was a quick little hit. Everybody slowed down for it, and then boom, green flag racing again. So the pre-planning of going through up towards Chicago worked.
Oh, that's good. Because like, yeah, you were like kind of behind an ice storm that went through, which actually hit like Shop Dad's place. Like there was, they were in state of emergency. I think 3-4 days. A lot of people without power, just trees down, like what we had in Texas here a couple of years ago. So like that had just gone through, and then meanwhile that next blow was kind of coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man, it's yeah, weather's bad weather. Nothing's worse like white knuckling, especially with a trip like yours. Like you got 3,000 miles and you got to white knuckle it. Like that's not fun.
No. Yeah, and then we come to find out, I think it was the day after we left Nashville. There was a bit of a twister that ran through there. People died,
Yeah.
like we have somehow skated through a ton of like holy shit moments and just got a couple of really heavy rains. So that was all good. But one of the things I do remember in this blur trip was, dude, like hand on heart, as soon as we crossed the state line into Indiana, something felt weird on the road. I'm like, I don't know what it is. Like, just it seems like no one's paying attention, and like just driving habits got really weird really quick. And so I'm paying attention to all this. And obviously, pulling a trailer, you're paying attention even more and like further than you normally would down the road. Dude, those people fucking drive like they just touch brakes for fun, like just to flash the brake lights. There's no slowing down or nothing. And like, one does it and then 8 of them behind him do it. And you're like, oh shit, here we go. Right. So I'm on the binders. Nothing happened. They didn't even fucking slow down a 1 mile an hour.
So this is just like an Indiana driving habit.
Okay, here's a little bit of justification. I'm like, okay, maybe I just caught them all on a Sunday and they're all fucked or whatever, right? I did a little story on my Instagram. I had easily a dozen people go, oh my God, you're not kidding. Like, this is a thing, I guess. Folks I mean, obviously I'm generalizing and not everyone in Indiana is a fucking pylon, but there's a lot of them.
Or maybe they're all 2-foot drivers. Because I feel like the 2-foot drivers usually, because they're usually, left foot's riding over the brake pedal, right?
Covering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something haywire is going on there, buddy. It ain't good. And that was the state. We covered a pretty good amount of distance in Indiana. Like went quite a ways across that state. There was 5 slowdowns on the interstate to like full stop to deal with a wreck.
So clearly
it was the only state we had that too.
Yeah. Odd.
Yep. And they were weird wrecks too. It was, if I remember right, it was always a big rig, and they'd just be like on a dead straight road, 75 yards out in the fucking Tulies. Like, you're like, you must have fallen asleep or swerved something. There's no reason to be out there on a straight road. So that was
Crazy.
interesting. I'm trying to think. I might screw this up, like how it all broke down, but I think we made it to Wisconsin first night. So we went Seaverville to Madison, Wisconsin, and then we went Madison, Wisconsin to just inside of Montana, and then Montana home. Montana's a big state. Like that fucker takes a day to cross pretty much. We actually had another weather warning in Montana too. There was we had 3 options, 2 of which were Montana, and 1 was jumping up and going through Canada. All 3 had weather warnings, and not just like half-ass stuff either. Like 12 inches plus of snow, all this shit, right? Yeah. And all we hit was rain.
Huh.
Like somebody was smiling down on us for sure.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, man. All this weather for April.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like it's odd, but yeah, I think we lucked out pretty good as well, right? Like I was Britt was technically the last one to leave the Airbnb. Right. So that ended up being a little fucky, right? She flying out of Knoxville to Charlotte just for me to drive to Charlotte and meet her there.
Right.
And so for anybody wondering, right, like my plan was to drive back to Texas. And because of all this weather, which was originating in Texas, like there was no way for me to miss it. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
going to hit something one way or another. And once you get to certain, I guess, areas, there's not, I guess, the best places to stay. Some states you just don't really want to spend much time in. We'll just put it that way. So I opted to drive back to Charlotte and fly home. So Brent was nice enough to say, yeah, no, the yellow car can park next to Dirty Linda and wait for the truck. So everything worked out, man. Like I left, I had like a little bit of mist and like it looked bad, but then like I drove out of it. So I actually ended
Right.
up with like nice sunshine and everything else. And when we got on the plane out of Charlotte, we pulled out and then it was like weird. Like I was in like my zone, which I'm glad I didn't drive, by the way. I think, what was it? The Saturday morning, I felt it. Like I felt my energy just wasn't there for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah.
So by the time Sunday came around, because Saturday was a long day as well, and every night we had good intentions of getting rest, which was always past midnight. But yeah, so like by the time I got to Charlotte and all that stuff, like so I'm kind of dozing off in my seat to the point where things were like sort of moving around. I'm like, oh, we must have took off. Like I thought we were flying.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, PA announcement, or no, the engine shut off. And then I'm like, what the fuck's going on? PA announcement's like, oh, we're just pulled over here off to the side. There's what are they? They're redirecting flights in Texas due to the weather. So then there was like a fuel concern or this and that and the next thing. So they played this game because I think there's probably different protocols depending on what you do. So it was sort of like if they go back to the gate and unload the plane, that was probably like one scenario versus if we just park over here to the side and we get clearance within an hour, then we don't probably have to go through a bunch of paperwork and hoopla and all this other stuff. So we lucked out, but we were literally off to the side for about 50 minutes.
Ooh.
And it was like every 15 minutes, they were giving us an update of what was going on. And then it worked out in the end, but it was still late, man. Like we got home like midnight that night.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, lucky enough, the car got picked up, I think Tuesday and just showed up today. So
Yeah. Sounds like that rodeo that I was on coming down to work on the shitbox that one time, hey, sitting on tarmac and fucking rain and oh my god.
and
It must
flying
just be
ever since COVID, man, I think the aviation industry is sideways. Like there's
yeah.
just between the stuff not running on time, cancellations. I think workforce is a big thing. Like I know that there was points at the Austin airport where they were like, yeah, expect like 2-hour lines through security because they just don't have the staff. Yeah, no, man, and I used to love flying, honestly. Like, I
Yeah.
always looked forward to it. But now it's like, I can see why my dad's like, oh, I drive everywhere. Cause he's like, by the
Yeah.
time you're through the fuckery, you're halfway there, you know?
Yeah.
You're in control of your own, navigation.
It's true. Yeah. When you stack it all up, think of like early arrival, security, sit and wait, get on the plane. There's probably going to be an issue. They might lose your bag. Like, it doesn't have a lot of good going for it anymore.
No.
And I've tried figuring that one out too, buddy. Like, how do you go backwards on things that we've more or less perfected? And I don't know if you chalk it all up to brain drain or, you know, there was obviously a group of folks that didn't want to get vaxxed and they were like gassed and now they're short staffed. Like I think it's a conglomeration of things, but even all that aside, right? We've had what, 2 years now or a little more since we've gone back to air quote normal.
Yeah.
Like, okay, are we gonna rest our fucking morals here on like the fact that it's still COVID shit that's causing this? Like, come on, guys, let's get it going here.
Yeah. Nap time's over, folks. Like,
Yeah,
we all had a great little, it was like having a snow day as a
yeah,
kid. But, the snow day is over and you got to go back to school and you got to, get back to normal. Like, I think a lot of people just, I don't know, man, took
choose the
advantage,
easy
or,
road.
you know what I mean? Got a little too comfortable and this other way of living. And man, we're paying for it.
Big time, dude. Okay, a couple takeaways though from the trip home, and this one actually surprised me. Wisconsin is a very pretty state. Now, I shouldn't say it surprised me because I thought it was going to be bad. I didn't really know, but I was pleasantly surprised with Wisconsin.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, man. I was a little what's the word? I don't want to say it's not jealous, but I was like a little disappointed because you hit, like, between your trip down and your trip home, you pretty
Yeah,
much hit everything except for Devil's Tower. You hit
right.
that was part of the Dutch 3000 route that we were planning. I'm like, this motherfucker, because like I remember Madison, Wisconsin being the tipping point, and from there we were going to decide, do we go like northern Michigan and up and around and down back to
Yeah,
Detroit, or are we doing the through Chicago bullshit and down and around that way? So I'm like, this motherfucker ruining it
right.
with his family. Where am I? Felt left out.
Totally.
There
Yeah.
you go. That's what it was.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though, now that we've done this, because I remember saying this on the pod, like we were talking about the route we were going to take and stuff, and we said, hey, if there's anything that we should be aware of, either as a must see or a must not do, let us know. Because neither of us have ever done this, right? Wow. Takeaways, buddy. North Dakota is, well, very, very desolate. Like the minute you pull, well, I shouldn't say the minute you pull in. Fargo, which unbeknownst to me is a border town. You go from shit, I might get this wrong, but I want to say like Duluth or something like that.
Duluth is up
Right in.
there.
Yeah, and you go like there's two towns that just literally combine on the line, and Fargo's in North Dakota. It's a lot bigger than I thought. I'll tell you that too. There's proper sized buildings and shit there, like city stuff.
Right.
But the drive through North Dakota, very pretty, very desolate, but very pretty. And the interstate is impeccable, like racetrack shit.
Nice.
Yeah, like that would have been a fun run in a Fox. Well, not fun. I mean, maybe fun if you wanted to really give her, but not a ton of corners.
Yeah.
But very, very smooth, you know. Illinois, especially while we did that like kind of outer loop around Chicago. Holy fuck, man. Talk about interchanges. Like, remember when we went through Atlanta And we did it late. We were both tired. We're like, holy fuck, there's a lot of moving parts to this freeway, right? Well, dude, I seen some shit in Illinois where, okay, not only do you have like 5 wide going both directions, you've got that twice. So you got this way 5 wide, this way 5 wide, that way 5 wide again, and this way. Like, it's insane. It's too much to comprehend. And then you've got like merge in, merge out, overpass, whatever. You're like, holy fuck, someone's gonna die. You
Yeah.
know, it's that one was intense. There was another one we hit in it was in St. Paul, Minnesota. That was actually quite a bit of pissing around and weird overpasses and like it's not so bad if you got a mile or two to get your shit together and get over and do your thing, but these were like quarter mile over now to the left and then all the way to the right and you're like, fuck, I'm coming through, I'm from Canada, look out.
I do
Yeah.
find like coming from Canada to the US, the exiting strategy is much faster.
Mm.
Like it's much easier to miss. And I don't know what it is. Like I feel like there's just more exit merge space in
Right.
Canada for whatever reason, right? And maybe that's because like that 500 meters comes so much faster than half a mile would, or whatever
Yeah.
the sign is. So maybe it's just kind of like giving you a little bit more leeway. But yeah, like what were the speed limits like across all the
They
states?
varied. Yeah, they varied. Everything kind of hovered around 70.
Uh-huh.
Um, Montana's 80. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure that might have been the only one. No, on our way down, we hit a couple 80s. I want to say maybe Kentucky was 80, which that actually reminds me, Kentucky was, from what I could see from the interstate, very beautiful state too. Um, Based on what we saw in Tennessee, very similar geographically, rolly hills and beautiful trees and stuff. Um, Something we did that I guess you and I, depending on where we were pulling into and stuff, we'd kind of look shit up and like, hey, what should we know about this place kind of stuff. Well, with my wife being co-pilot, it was like a history lesson the whole way down. Like, here's when this place was incorporated and, got into the union. And we learned a ton on this drive. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
Um, yeah. What was the other one now? St. Louis on the way down. That was quite a few like, holy shit, we got to get over and stuff. And on that note, dude, there was a couple places that seemed to have like really figured out the exits and merges and shit. And it's those roads where like the far right lane, which I tried to spend as much time in as I could being a truck and a trailer. It's when those fucking lanes all of a sudden they're they're the exit.
Yeah.
You're like, shit. And I get it, obviously no one even knows that I'm not from there. So they're busy going to wherever they're going to. And it's just car. I'm like, fuck, and no one's letting me in. I can't get over, guys. I'm gonna have to exit, fuck myself around some, loop-de-loop and get back on here. But then you've got ones that have that figured out where it's like, if you want to exit, you go into this lane that's going to open up in a quarter mile versus the far right lane is now your exit lane, right? I tried to stay in the middle as much as I could because I'm like, fuck, I don't know if I got to go left or right in these places. But then you're like the
Oh,
fat kid in the pool. Like you're just getting jostled around by everybody trying to figure out which way you got to go. It was fucked. But
oh. So
everybody,
did you have like obviously you got to explore a lot of states and you had your little co-pilot slash history information gatherer for you.
yep,
Was there anywhere that you got out and you just kind of like felt, I don't know, homey, or like you had a
Tennessee.
vibe? Yeah.
Yeah, Tennessee definitely captured everybody's hearts. Now, one could make the argument that we spent the most amount of time there, and that's maybe why. But we really tried to be as honest with ourselves as possible. Like, if you're passing through just on the interstate through whatever area, it's like, well, this kind of looks nice. Like I mentioned about Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And now, when you're going to do something as crazy as we're considering doing, I mean, you kind of got to be picky and choosy because, I mean, to think that Wisconsin impressed us from the interstate is great to say, but at the same time, we're a bunch of igloo dwellers up here. Like, do we really want to go somewhere that is going to be full blown winter for 6 months of the year? No, right? So that gives Wisconsin a great big red X real fast. But yeah, like I say, we tried to be as open minded as possible to just the vibe of a place, and and you can actually, I know for a fact you can't necessarily do that if you just fly to someplace. Like
Yeah.
driving the United States, the lower 48 is the only way to get that appreciation, in my opinion. You rub elbows with folks in the gas station, right? Do these people hold doors or not? Are they friendly when you kind of smile at them? Stuff like that.
Do they ride the
And I
brake
mean,
pedal?
yeah, do they drive like a bunch of orangutans? And because I said to the wife, I'm like, had we flown into Nashville, which, well, I guess this is everyone's first update. And I've told you, but Nashville didn't impress me one bit. And now I had somewhat high hopes for like Broadway being like country music mecca and all this stuff. Man, that is the furthest thing from country that I know it to be. You know, like that's just Vegas and country music is all it is.
Yeah.
The reeks like puke, which whatever, right? Everybody's there to party, so I kind of get it. But it's so touristy. Like it just, I don't know. I mean, I might have told you this, buddy, when we were at the house, but we went into Morgan Wallen's bar. The kids wanted to go in there, and I got a Miller Lite and two Sprites. The wife didn't want anything, and that was $21. Like, oh, good, right? And then the kids wanted t-shirts. So we go to the gift shop, and the gals, they pick their shirts out and they get one for their big sister who wasn't with us. And she scans them in. She goes, that'll be $148. I said, get fucked. I am not paying you $150 for three Gildan t-shirts. Like,
It
never.
wasn't even buy two, get one free.
No. I lost a little respect for Morgan Wallen on that one. So anyway, yeah, Nashville wasn't what we thought it was. But I said to the wife, I'm like, had we flown into Nashville to try to appreciate what Tennessee's all about and then flown out of there, I'd be like, fuck Tennessee. Like, no way. So there's a lot to be said about driving through areas,
Yeah.
and you definitely get that appreciation for the landscape, even just off the interstate, which is pretty huge. Obviously driving around the little towns and checking things out helps. It would be nice, but like pretty hard to imagine a person having the time to do this. It would be nice to spend some time in the areas that you drove through that went like Kentucky. Oh, that was kind of nice driving through there, but like time, right? How do
Yeah.
you do that? So, yeah, man. I mean, we went into it thinking Tennessee was probably going to impress us. We tried our best to straw man every little thing that we liked. It's like, okay, this is cool, but it's got to impress us more. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I think we really like Tennessee.
Nice. Well,
Yeah,
that's good, man. No, I love it. Was really nice to be able to go back. Like, mind you, we were in a fairly touristy area as well, but I think you can quite easily like picture things outside of those areas.
yeah,
Um, and right, because that trip in the M5 was just kind of like a quick 24-hour in and out. But, like you said, you drive some of the roads, see the landscape. And man, even that morning when I left, it took me down some other twisty, weird back roads to get me back out to I-40, which was completely because that's the thing. There's like 19 ways to get to the same place,
Yeah.
right? That was kind of the cool thing. So it was like every time you want to go somewhere, you can almost take, a new route or mix things up, and it's going to take you the same amount of time. And I don't know, man. It's a cool spot for sure. And
Yeah.
like I've always said that, like I enjoy, the Carolinas as well.
Yeah.
And that whole is like there's so much like us being car guys, you know what I mean? Like knowing that you're within a proximity that's drivable to all of these shows and events and everything else. There's something to be said about that. And like as much as like I would love to explore like Arizona more, like because I
Yeah.
know there's beautiful places of Arizona. I know a lot of people get hung up even in Nevada, but like you're almost isolated, at
Yeah.
that point. And that's kind of the issue, right? It's like Joe being off in Hawaii. Like
Totally.
you wouldn't want to be in Hawaii, but like, yeah, once you're in Hawaii, you're in Hawaii. Like, so
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that whole accessibility thing plays a huge bit, but you're absolutely right, man. Like if someone flew into Houston, in and out of Houston, and that was your only experience of Texas, like maybe that's good, right? Because maybe we
But I know
don't
what you
want to be
mean.
here anyways. But like, yeah, it's like you come and then you visit hill country of Texas that you knew nothing about. Completely different ball game, right?
Yeah. Well, shit, dude. Had I like just flown into Austin and not come out to your place, same argument I think could be made, right? Like Austin's a big city. And interestingly enough, it's that little kind of liberal zit
Yeah.
on Texas, right? So you'd be like, what the fuck is this? Or
And
maybe you'd be like, hey, this is home. Like, I don't know. But your
yeah,
guys' area is unreal.
yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing too is now that you've told me about Nashville, I'm genuinely curious because like we never got to do Austin while you were here. Like we didn't even
Yeah.
go down to hill country. The closest thing, the tubing was really the only extracurricular activity that we did outside of being able to really get an idea of what's around. But with the whole music scene and everything else, because I think Austin's still live music capital of maybe the world or at least of the US or it was or something, right? So mind you, it's not country, but you got your Willie Nelson, you got your Janis Joplin, you got all these famous musicians that have been here. And even though Austin's been extremely commercialized, which I think we can thank or hate social media for, because I think that that's
Right.
ultimately what fucks up all these cool spots. But um, I'd be curious to get your take, like if the
Yeah.
vibe that Austin has or what it's known for, because I'm biased. To me, it's like all these Cali people are coming in, it's fucking ruined, but maybe it's not as ruined as the comparison to Nashville is.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'd
Good
be
point,
actually
dude.
curious to get your take on that because it's still famous and known for that and the hippy dippy stuff, which makes it liberal. You know what I mean? Like that's just those kinds of people
Yeah.
revolve around that type of values, if you will. But with that said, it defines the culture. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Well, it's funny because obviously this is, my thoughts on it and what I'm looking for in a place to call home. Somebody else's might be completely different. But I have shared my thoughts on Nashville with a few people and they're like, "Oh, totally agree." Right?
Yeah.
And now maybe they're wired just like me or maybe this is the consensus. Like would Nashville, probably much like Austin, would it be a great time to have 2 or 3 days with a group of buds, just go and get shit faced every night, eat decent food? Yeah, it'd probably be a hoot. But I said to
Yeah.
your wife, I'm like, you could quite literally transplant Broadway from Nashville, throw it downtown Toronto, and you wouldn't know any difference. Like
And that's
it's a
kind of
big
sad
city. I couldn't agree more, pal. And
because
you know,
Toronto to me, well, we've spoken about this. Like Toronto is like the useless city.
right.
You know what I mean? It's like, what are you known for? You know, concrete everywhere. It's like, yeah, you can go drink and eat and whatever, but it's literally just a big city. And I think that
Yeah.
that's always like what I've loved about Detroit is that it oozes like this fucking aura around it of, you know, the whole blue collar, you know,
Yeah.
sports. It had the music, it had all of these like iterations of history around it that I don't know, man. Actually, that I never say that, but that actually gave me some goosebumps even just saying it. Like there's that's why I asked you, because like I've physically like walked around places and just felt like a feeling. And there's
Yeah.
very few places that have done that for me. One that surprised me completely was Wellington, New Zealand. It's like the southmost city in the North Island of New Zealand. You know, I did a whole tour around that when I had my before leaving Australia, and just something, dude. Like literally walked outside from the Airbnb one morning downtown, and it was just like, what is like this weird feeling of like relax, if you
Yeah.
will. You know what I mean? So, oh man, there's something, and that's really important. I think. Funny enough, when I got to Brent's and I called the Uber to pick me up, take me to the airport, guy rolls up, gets out of his car immediately, and he's like, "Dude, can I look at your car?" Like, just infatuated with the yellow Dutch, which I found out has a name.
Oh.
So the name that that car had was Chiquita, like the
Oh,
banana.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
right. Right.
yeah. So he messaged me. He's like, "Yeah, no, all my buddies used to call it Chiquita." And I was like, Chiquita. I'm like, well, I guess whatever, you know, because yeah, out in the that part of the GTA full of the Genos and whatever else lingo, right? And he's no, 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 like Chiquita the banana, and I'm like, oh, right. So I don't know if I want to carry on that legacy, but there you go. That's the original name of the Yellow Dutch. But
Well,
um,
that or didn't Sadie tell you to call it the Minion Mobile or something?
oh yeah, Minion, and then somebody called it Summer. Man, I think it's just going to be the car of many names. So, so yeah, so getting this Uber with this guy, and he's got a podcast going on, something about like financial wealth and freedom going.
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, he's got a headset in with like some business partner guy that he's like trying to give advice about how to like be able to get business loans, then reinvest and do all these other things. And like you tell, a
Yep.
hustler guy, right?
Yeah.
And he was originally from Florida. Baby mama moved to Texas. He's in North Carolina, and you know, we started talking about, you know, life. And he was actually, because I was like, oh man, it seems like you like to hustle. He's like, yeah, I like to hustle, but he's like, I like focus a lot on health, well-being, all of these other things. And I'm like, man, you don't not like hear that from many people, you know, so frequently, or like where they're putting health and well-being and shit in front of everything, at least not from an Uber driver. And
Totally.
you know, I said to him, I'm like, there's your happiness in life. Like if you are not happy going home every day, like in terms of your physical surrounding, like that'll dictate your whole life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if you're, and it's that whole question of like, do you want to be in the $1 million apartment, or do you want that faces a brick wall, or do you want the, you know, apartment that's a brick room that has $1 million view?
Yeah.
Um, you know, and it's usually, you know, you think about a kid, and this is like my education thing of, right? Um, you know, you go off to university or whatever it is, and you want to go to the greatest school, or you want to go to where your friends are going, or whatever else, but then you never think about the physical location of where you're going and how those
Yeah.
impacts you. Like you said, whether it's people holding the door for you, whether it's the weather, whether it's the crime, or the like, we all have different things that are extremely important to how we feel safe and well. And like If you're living, some people want neighbors. They want the comfort of people next door. Some people want space and room to roam and not have any neighbors, right? So like all these things affect us differently. And but like you work during the day or generally, right? And you do all these things. So like, yeah, if you're not happy driving down your driveway and like coming up to your entry every day, like that's your time to recharge and relax and be zen. So like I feel like that is probably the single-handed most important thing. It's like when we make as car guys the analogy, if you don't, when you park your car, if you don't turn around and look
Yeah.
back at your car, you're driving the wrong car.
Yep.
So I
Oh,
think
so
people need
true,
to
man.
prioritize that more. You know what I mean? And it's, I get it. We get stuck or it's in a routine or we got the good job or whatever else, but it's like, what are you sacrificing as a result?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I wanted to go back to what you were saying about like getting that kind of weird energy kind of feeling, you know? Uh, and I know if you're listening to this and you've never felt something like this, it's probably sounds super woo woo and whatever. And maybe it is, or I don't know, but I get those feelings too, buddy. And it's like walking into a room and everybody kind of turns around and looks at you and you go like, "Woo," right? Like, did I say something? Did I do something? Like what just happened here? But that same energy exists in places for sure. And Nashville gave me a weird vibe, which disappointed me.
Right.
Um, and there was a couple. Actually, Knoxville was weird for me because I I got both vibes almost, and
Yeah.
the way that both me and the wife kind of said about Knoxville were like, I don't know that I've ever been as 50-50 on a place I went to as Knoxville. Like you're not sure how to feel about it. But
Yeah.
there was a couple little towns that we went through in Tennessee where, well, I was telling you, right? The one reminded me a lot of Georgetown. And we enjoy that, right? Like that old town square and the buzz around it and whatever. Franklin was a lot like that, but Franklin, well, I mean, it's very well known for being like, the who's who of Nashville get out of Nashville and go to Franklin, right?
Mm,
And that can make for fairly interesting living arrangements because, well, it gets expensive. You're definitely going to have lots of amenities, but with all that, you kind of get that like splish splashy, everyone's splashing their tits all over town and who's driving what. And like, I'm too old for all that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I like seeing the, multi-millionaire roll up in his 81 Ford 3/4 ton, right? Like that's my style of wealthy, you know? Um, so and not that, well, I don't know. The wife really loves that area. It's so outrageously priced. It's not even funny. And sadly, this has all occurred in like the last, I could be wrong on my years, but let's say like 5-10 years. It's just gone outrageous. And prior to that, I mean, you could have slid in there for a song,
yeah.
land and all kinds of shit. Fuck if a person would have had an almanac, But um anyway, and we're not looking to live in any of those big centers, but much like you guys, you live near that city. So having a town that belongs to or is kind of like associated with that city matters because you're like, well, because cities do drip, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of get some of the bullshit of the city out where you're at. Um, our style of living is just like your guys. Is like, I want to go and piss in the corner of my yard and not have to worry about waving at my neighbor, going, "Sorry, didn't mean to show you my dick." Like you you want your own little corner of the world, or we do. And but yeah, having it near whatever major center that it is also matters, right? Because,
Yeah.
well, especially for us too, you think about the kids, um, they're going to have the same kind of draws that we did when we were younger, right? Like, no matter, especially if you grew up in a small town, right? typically you want what you don't have, which is going to the city. And if it's Nashville being your closest city, I mean, a kid could get in a lot of shit in Nashville, you know? Hell, we could at our age, you know?
Yeah.
So that stuff kind of factors in, you know? And I definitely don't want, I want to stay as far away from that like Hollywood kind of bullshit. I mean, it's okay to be there for vacation, but if you were around that all the time, fuck, that'd get old. Our area is kind of not where we live, but like Kelowna's kind of like that.
Yeah.
A lot of keeping up with the Joneses bullshit. And it's like, that makes for a shitty society, in my opinion, you know, like people won't help you if you need it. And everybody's a little too busy. And I don't know. That's for the
Yeah.
birds. But dude, to your point about liking where you come home to or looking back at the car you drive or whatever that is, you nailed it. Like there is something really to be said about that. And I mean, I've sat on your guys' veranda, you know, and like sitting there and watching the sun go down, like you'll that'll, I don't know, change your life, you
Yeah.
know. Or like you said, you want to go home and just what's on Netflix, like teach their own, but I'm more the veranda kind of guy, you know.
No, I got you, man. Yeah, now, it's like so much changed in the past, like all this bad weather and stuff. And now, coming home, the corn's all coming up in the field and stuff. And yeah, it just kind of, I guess, echoes and resonates a little bit with you. So, um, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
there we go. Keeping it real a little
Oh,
bit. But we should talk about some fox bodies a little bit.
we should. Yeah.
Mr.
You
Two
know,
Jugs.
right. Um, yeah, and I was telling my buddy today that I was sharing some border stories with. I said, and I don't know if this is going to be politically correct, but I think everybody knows me enough by now to know that I don't mean any harm in saying this, but I think it's a pretty good way of giving an analogy. We won the furthest driven, which is a lot like winning the most retarded, right? Like, I mean, let's be honest here. Like, who is going to drive? And dude, I'll tell you what. Um, this Nick, who I don't know if you would have met him or not, but like, funny enough, I met him on this trip. He reached out to me on Instagram when we posted a photo in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, because we were just in love with this whatever, like couple 100-year-old building, right? And it's right in the town square. So took the photo, did the location tag or whatever, and he's like, "Dude, this is my hometown. Like, I didn't know you guys were here." And so we got to chit chatting because I'm like, "Hey, man, like, would you mind like telling me a little bit more about the area? Because we think we kind of like it." And so we got to know each other there. And then him and his family were coming up to Pigeon Forge, right? So ran into him the night of the Hard Rock cruise in there or whatever,
All right.
which I can't even believe we really did, because it just, luck would have it, dude, is we were all kind of like staging our way through that crowd. um I seen, and we'd only met on Instagram, right? So I might have seen one photo of him, but he had a big beard, which was
Right.
kind of a bit of a giveaway. So I seen this dude with a big beard, and I'm like, I'm looking and he's looking, and I pointed at him and he points at me. I'm like, okay, it's got to be him, right? So kind of shook hands through the window as we were pulling in, and yeah, got a chance to shoot the shit with him and stuff. And so why I tell all that story is he phoned me while we were all packing up. And he's like, dude, they're looking for some Canadian that drove down here for the show. Cause like, I guess word had kind of got around a little bit. They want to give you the furthest driven. I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. Right. So ran in there, and dude, speaking of our whole like energy and walking into a room and having everyone look at you, guy, did you go in there and see how many people were, like, it was lawn chairs. It was
Oh yeah.
fucking a
I was
thousand.
hanging out. I was like where Brent was. So I was like camped out with
Oh,
Brent off in the back. Cause yeah, dude, it was like packed.
oh, Jesus, like crazy, you know? So me and Spano go boogieing through there, and as we're the only two guys moving through the like kind of through the back end of the crowd, and the announcer's kind of looking at us and like, is it you guys? And now everyone's turned around looking at us. I'm like, oh my god, like this is awkward, right?
Furthest
Anyway,
driven, furthest walked to his jug.
yeah. So he's like, "Are you the guy that drove like 3,000 miles?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm that silly Canadian. I'm working my way up here, right?" So yeah, that was super cool. So then yeah, I hook up with Aaron and Laura. The kids were there. Pro shows up and comes in, and in case I should maybe reference this a little bit, in case anyone's wondering who I keep calling Pro, we call my wife Pro for short because it's just easier to say her name that way. So maybe should have said that an hour ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, so yeah, hanging with all them, and it was funny, man, because I said to the group, I'm like, have you guys noticed that a lot of Garys have won awards? Because like you hear Gary, and then you go, oh, and then
Right.
the other different last name, right? And funny enough about that, I had a buddy probably 10 years ago sent me an email. It was out of some magazine where they had done a write up saying how the name Gary is one of the fastest dying names. Like no one's naming their kids Gary anymore. And interestingly enough, in that article, they said actually last year, 3 girls were named Gary. I'm like, this is fucked. Like, I had to call my mom. I said, Mom, what the hell is with Gary? Right. Anyway, so yeah, there was like 5 Garys called. So anyway, I'm sitting on the floor because we'd been standing for the last 48 hours, all of us, right? And kind of checking, doing the gram and checking in on shit. And Laura goes, Gare, what are you doing? I'm like, just Instagram. Like, I'll put it down. I thought she was giving me shit, you know? And she's like, they're calling your fucking name, guy. I'm like, no, for what? Like, what are you talking about? I don't know. I didn't even hear it, she says, because there's been so many awards given out, right? Because I mean, hell, they did like, what was it, top 75 or something from
Yeah.
outside? Like piles and piles of names had been called. Anyway, I'm like, come on, Laura, right? Because she's a bit of a bullshitter. I'm like, no way. They're calling your fucking name. So anyway, up I went. And yeah, it was the Pitts Staff Pick Award. I'm
Right.
like, no shit.
You
You
know,
know?
I was telling, well, obviously I said it when you were there, but for the asylum to have gathered so many cars there and only give out one award, I'm like, come on. Like these guys
Yeah.
literally redefine the fox bodies into this show, and you make them wait that whole time and only give out one award. And I know obviously we've had our own conversations about, especially around the convertible awards.
Mm.
And then Tom is always very vocal about things. And so, funny enough, when I was packing up my last few things the morning I left, um, in true infamous project fashion, I find the brown envelope for the registration thing. Dude, I never even had my card in the dash. My card
Oh,
number was fucking never there, never whatever. Like, and it's not like whatever. Like,
yeah.
if there was something, somebody could have just been like the yellow fucking fox body, and it
Right.
would have been clear who it was. But I'm just like, I like Tom. I know you're gonna have shit to say, but like, just so you know that if there's anything that you want to say that refers to me, it's my own fault because the damn number wasn't even in the fucking windshield.
Well, buddy, because yeah, I was actually in a similar boat. And well, health, in case anyone has never seen Chris and I at one of these things, I mean, I don't know. And I'm not saying this to sound like a doughhead or anything, but like, you know, you're going in all directions because we're obviously trying to like take in all this shit that we love and have loved our pretty much our whole lives. And then everything else, and we're whatever trying to juggle, fucking t-shirts and this, that, and the other thing. So it's a lot. Like, you at the end of those days, you don't know if you've come or gone, right? And so again, bud, I don't even know if you were near whoever it was that was telling me at the time, but they're like, "Hey, do you got your card in the windshield?" I'm like, "What card?" Like, I was in the same idiot mode as you, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? They're like, "Guy, they're fucking walking around right now. Like, they got to know what your car is and who owns it." I'm like, "Oh, fuck." I'm like, "I don't even know where my envelope is." I went over, found it in the trunk, like,
The worst part was too is I was like, okay, I got this stupid brown envelope. I had it in my GoPro backpack. And like I took it out and same thing, right? Like you're unpacking. I was trying to set up the fucking tent and do all these other things. And like,
yeah, thanks, by the way.
yeah,
In
don't
case I
worry.
hadn't already. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, and like at the end of the day, I know me and you have talked about like it's never been about awards. The ship box was never about award, and it still got an award. But yeah, man, it's just an absolute cluster from that perspective. And I think, yeah, like the asylum guys did a phenomenal job, I think, of gathering.
Yeah.
And I was, the one guy, I think Chet or whatever, who made a post like he didn't feel like his car was worthy of the booth or whatever. And just kind of reading through the comments, it was like so refreshing. To, you know what I mean? For like that, they're a group, like it's not just
The
about how
humble.
much money you got. Yeah, it's way more humble and whatever else.
Yeah.
And I think that was just awesome. And I didn't hear one body kit on a coupe complaint. I
True.
actually, to be honest, I was actually quite surprised because, like, I know yellow's not everybody's color, but
Yeah.
it seemed like no one had a problem with yellow or a fucking body kit on a coupe that whole
No.
weekend. So,
Good point, buddy. Well, and I
yeah.
mean, that day that me, you, and Britt went for a bite after the show, and
Oh yeah.
kind of just whatever, and we found this. I mean, I'll be honest, and I'm sure I'm speaking for you too, buddy. Like, I hate parking in busy parking lots, right? And now
At
this
least
is
it was
kind of a big.
free.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. This is kind of a funny story, might lead us into one down the road here, but like, I, in front of all my buddies, beat the ever living piss out of my car this past weekend, right? And if you haven't seen Chris's video, go check that out. You'll see it firsthand. So it's contradictory to like care and kind of air quote not care at the same time. But anyway, I know everyone will know what I'm saying about parking lots. Fuck, guys, we pull into this thing and it's like thousands of cars, all tourists. Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't have picked a worse parking lot to park in. And anyway, we
Like it's
find
so
these
big,
two
there's a
spots.
tram.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
like,
it's like going to Disney. It really is.
oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So we find two spots. We shoehorn the cars in like as tight as possible to each other. So we're like, hey, everyone, just please, don't kill us here, right? And anyway, on our way out, we got this dude, like, his wife and kids are way up the road, right? And he's stopped there taking pictures of the cars. So we're kind of laughing. He picks up on the vibe. He's like, "Is this your guys' cars?" And he tells us all about his Fox. So cool. And that's one of the many cool things about this community, right? It's like Fox body folks stick together. And I said this to pretty much everyone that I had this chat with over last weekend. I said, it's kind of like we're all war veterans, right? Like, we've fucking been through the worst of the worst with these cars, especially your story, dude. We got to get into that too. I mean, I've seen your video. I'm like, that poor fucker. Like, anyways, we've been through a lot together, and you don't really know it until you've had one. And then we all get together and we all got them shined up, and it's like, holy shit, it's one of the many things that brings us together as well, is just all the heartaches and shit. And this was another thing I said to people too. I'm like, dude, if somebody showed up to this show and they were like, yeah, I didn't have any problems at all, Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, come on. Who are you kidding? You know? So, I mean, hell, even the, big dollar cars had problems. Like, everybody's got problems. And that's one of the many cool things about this group, right? We all struggle together, we all party together, we all shine together, you know?
Yeah. No, it's true, man.
And buddy, I'll tell you what, the building off of that comment you made about like the humble nature of people, it's so cool because this is again another very common trait in and amongst all of us that have spent any time in this world is we're all our own worst enemy, right?
Mhm.
We pick our shit apart. And I made the analogy a few times last weekend about it's a lot like a female that spends a little too much time in front of the mirror, right? And God forbid you ever put your car on a hoist and you look at it from the lower angle up, you're like, oh my God, right? But to all your guys' point, which whatever, it'd probably sound better coming from you than from me, but I was pleasantly surprised with all of your reactions to my car because going off this whole we're all our own worst enemy kind of thing, right? Um, I don't know. It's something that I really like about this group, right? Screen Puff Joe talks about this all the time. And then yeah, but then you get us all together and like we're all the same dude. We all got the same problems with our cars. Everybody's got nicks and dings and fucking whatever. Unless, you're like concourse build whatever. War Admiral. You know what I
But
mean?
even that, like,
Yeah.
look at how sideways he was. Like, I love that. Oh no, this don't post this. Like, um, but like that, honestly, like those memories and going through that, like I get it, right? Like from his perspective, right? You paid a lot of money, and something so simple
Mm,
shouldn't be the issue, and then like you really just like, and then it just starts eating at you. But yeah, glad that we were able to make that work. And I mean, because like, yeah, that would have sucked. Like nobody wants to not be able to drive their car home. And like I would
yeah.
have thought he was sort of like, oh, whatever, I'll just leave it here overnight. And I'm like, I wouldn't want my car sitting here overnight. Like, let's just change
No.
this damn alternator and make it work, So um but yeah, man, I don't know. It's those points that I think once you overcome those challenges, just actually make it that much better in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Now, you got to drive War Admiral. I got to drive War Admiral. It's funny, dude, when I was watching your video, that peel away video that you got in there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Now I know this because I was behind the fucking wheel. Like that car, when that thing really starts laying the boost to it, motherfucker. Like those
Yeah.
335s don't stand a chance.
No. No.
And it tracks dead straight. I mean, you can hear it in your video, like, come by you hot. And then I don't know, when I'm about 75 feet out in front of you, that thing starts breaking loose. I'm like, fuck, Tom. Like, what an animal that car is.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal. I was, because when I drove it, well, it was on the same stretch of road that you had it on, but it was, I think there was a little bit of traffic and there was just kind of like one opening, and I was like, okay, I'm in third gear. If I put it in a second, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
And so, like, it was probably like 3 grand and just roll into it. And yeah, it took a second for, the turbo to spool and the boost, but fuck, man, by the time I hit fourth, I was having flashbacks to the last time I drove it on the on ramp, and, Tom's starting to fucking freak out. So, the only advantage I had this time is that he was driving my car. So,
Right.
um, yeah, no, it all worked out. It was funny, right? Like, just like, because it was like we're trying to film each other and everything, and meanwhile, it's like, do you know where you're going? It's like, no, like I don't know where the fuck I'm going. Like, who's leading who here? But yeah, no, man, and like just man, those times they're so good, right? Like Sam,
Oh,
his daughter, cruising the passenger seat, getting the smiles on the faces and everything. Like that's
you
why
can't
like the
beat
show
it.
doesn't matter, man. It's everything else that revolves around the show. And I'm actually glad to see the video doing so well. Like,
Well,
I think it's sort of, kind of like what we had hoped with like our Dutch adventure. I think it just
yeah.
didn't have the same surrounding. I think if there was maybe more integration with Foxtoberfest in it or something, but that's what it's all about, man.
So true, buddy. Yeah. I say this every time that, we kind of get a bit of a group together and you get to spend some proper time, not only with each other, but with the cars and appreciating them at that level. Um, because you go to these shows and it's just sensory overload, right? And to me, it's kind of heartbreaking because every single person at that show has poured their heart and souls into that car. And but because you're in and amongst this just slew of beautiful cars, so much doesn't even get appreciated. Like, fuck, man, we all talked about it at the house and stuff, but like that silver coupe that was beside me,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that thing was crazy. And
Yeah.
it
And that
got
was all
walked
him.
by just like all the rest of our cars. It was like, oh yeah, cool, cool, cool,
Yeah.
fucking unreal, man. Um, Yeah. One more thing before we get too far away from War Admiral. I've said this many, many, many times, but in case anyone hasn't heard it, I cannot for the life of me get my head around how that car can be so dual personality. Like it is
Yeah.
so friendly to drive at just like if you had your grandma with you, and she wasn't into the horsepower and whatever, like that thing is so friendly to drive at low speeds, and then it'll absolutely fucking kill those tires at the
It's
drop of
kind
a
of
hat.
like, you know what I mean? Like a European car.
Yeah,
That's probably the best way to put it. Cause like it rides well, it's comfort.
totally.
You know what I mean? It's got the drivability and it's just sort of, it's like my M5. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, um, yeah, no, it's not your regular fox body. That's for damn sure.
No, and that's the thing that well, I personally think it's one of the coolest things about that car. Obviously, it looks great and does checks all those boxes, but I think in order to have that like ultimate appreciation of that car, it's got to be ridden in and or
Yeah.
driven. You know, like there's a reason that car was in that whole good guys run and everything else. I mean, it's a proper car.
Yeah.
Minus the alternator.
Hey, the alternator's proper now, man.
True. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Let's circle back and go through some of your bullshit because yeah, this is quite comical. Fucking poor bastard.
oh, um, yeah. So, well, everything went well, up until, and it's funny. I was trying to think in my head, right? Like, how many miles did the car go, like, from actually purchasing, right? Because the car was driven around Detroit. Then it
Yeah.
came, to Texas, like, truck down to Texas, and I drove it around here. I went to a couple places and the detailer and this and that. And so I want to say like probably a good 500 miles were probably Brent took it to the tint shop and like everything was, what I mean, doing the things. And of course, right, like I changed all the fluids and went over everything and checked the brakes and um the sending unit for your fuel gauge works flawlessly in that car, which
Right.
is a rare thing. And it's
Even
even,
with a clean tank and everything else.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly, right? So, thinking, okay, the guy took reasonably good care of the car, but yeah, it was probably in parking garage and saw some temperature fluctuations and shit. But um, with the slew of receipts that it had, I'm just like, well, whatever. Fuel pump's a fuel pump. My luck, if I change the fuel pump, there's
I'll
probably a
find more
greater
shit.
chance that the new one's gonna fucking break before whatever, right? And it's like if the sending
Yeah.
unit's good, whatever. So all I ever did was change tank straps. And yeah, so I picked the
And
car
fuel
up from
filter.
Brett's and fuel filter. I did do the fuel filter, yeah. And so yes, I picked the car up at Brent's. Beautiful sunny day. First time I'm hearing the stereo since Keith from K Designs. I had everything fucking wired up, and dude, I was like, I honestly, I felt like when I had my first silver notch, like in high school. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is just fucking beauty. And like, I'm in the honeymoon phase with that car, like, just like, cause I got the wing on and all the looks and the wheel fitment and everything. It was just like I'm obsessing over my own car in a good way.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bad way, but whatever. So everything is good. Hit the first rest stop because I got a piss, and I'm just like, man, this is beauty. Just starting to hit the mountain range and stuff on the west side of North Carolina. And I opted to take the I-40 way. So the washed out Hurricane from last year, which is kind of 2 lanes instead of the divided stuff. And I go to leave the rest area, and I'm on the on ramp, and I go to give it, and just around 440, 500, it's like gives like that little but, and I'm like, that's off. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? I guess okay, well, maybe whatever. The spark plug wires that I hand crimped doesn't like it. Something, God knows what. I'll just take it easy. Well, I'm starting to go up mountain range, and load on the motor, and now it's doing it like a little bit more like a misfire slash. I'm like, and I knew it. I'm like, this feels like fuel, but like I've had a hot coil or whatever. And then I remember that crane ignition module that was in the car from way back in the day was bypassed when I got the car, and I had plugged it back in and everything worked. So I was just like, that's kind of weird, right? So I'm like, maybe because I've had MSDs fail and they do weird shit. I'm like, let me just unplug the connector from there and directly back into the coil. So I pulled off. I had a safe place to pull over, thank God. Car fires right back up. I get maybe 5 miles down the road, and then it starts doing it again. And I'm like, motherfuck. And I had that same little blue pouch that we brought on the Detch 3000 with the TFI, and the tool was still in there. And I'm like, maybe. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I feel like it's fuel, but like I was looking at the gauge on the rail, and it still had some fuel pressure.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm like, it's not like it's draining off or whatever. And it's not like, and some guy commented, but like when your car's at idle and you're revving a car with fuel, it's completely different than, no, we need
Driving.
fuel because we're under load here, right?
Yeah.
So change the TFI. Of course, at this point, it's like, oh, the timing, yeah, right around there, probably close, good, send it, And dude, I went like 10 miles. I'm like, fuck, guess TFI was getting hot, and call Lewis. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, man, I just ran into these issues, but I think I'm good. I'm in the clear. Soon as I say it, dude, but I'm like, fuck. Like, dude, I got to call you back. And I shit you not, like, as this is happening, and it wasn't like the car was dying, like it was out of fuel. It was just like it didn't have like enough. So it's like you could sort of like feather the throttle a little bit. And I saw like brake lights, and there was an exit. Like I literally just managed to coast down this exit, which is Asheville, which is pretty much the border or near the
Yeah.
border, before like you're fucked into the single lane stuff. So I lucked out big time. So I coasted off to the side, and there was an auto zone. And if I call the auto zone, I'm like, do you have a fuel pump somewhere? Like, no, we can get you one by tomorrow. I'm like, there's got to be an O'Reilly's nearby, because that's how they're all, you know what I mean? One's here and one's like 1 block away type deal. It's like, yeah, there's an O'Reilly's like 1 block down the road. So I call them up, and sure as shit, full fuel pump hanger assembly available. And I'm like, do you guys like have tools there? Do you guys allow people to work, like do stuff in the parking lot? And he's like, yeah, like what tools do you think you need? I'm like, well, I need a jack stands. I need 13mm half-inch for the tank straps, and
Flat blade.
flathead screwdriver, and I'll be good, and a hammer to knock the fucking lock ring off. And like, we got everything but the jack stands. I'm like, what can I, do you have some for sale? He's like, yeah, we got some for sale. I'm like, all right, like, I'm going to let the car cool down a bit. I'll be there in 15 minutes. So, cause it's about, yeah, it said 1.8, but I think it ended up being like 2.6 or something. And with like, this wasn't like, oh, I can just coast off to the side. Now I'm like, okay, if I'm in between stoplights or I'm blocking lanes of traffic, let this pump cool down enough
Yeah.
that I'll make it. So I waited 10, 15 minutes, um, made it there, pulled in, and, you know, he had the fuel pump. I'm like, all right, man, I'm going to change this in the parking lot. Are you good? And he's like, you're really going to change that here? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to change this here.
I'm
And
fucked
like,
without it.
I'm in true fashion, brand new white Superstars, white t-shirt, white hat. You know what I mean? Like, so I pull off like my good white t-shirt. So it's just like my under white one. And yeah, man, bought 2 jack stands, get to, and of course this tank is like, it's over half. Like, it's at the point like where, you know what I mean? It's the fuel level's just sitting underneath where the filler neck is.
Yeah.
So like, it's just wanting to splish and slosh everywhere. And you know, I got to disconnect the underglow because that's all fucking routed. And then that stupid ring that goes around the filler neck that bolts through the gas tank
Yeah.
that nobody ever puts back on. Well, of course that's on there. And
Right.
so that's a 5/16 or an 8 mil, whatever you got access to. And what sockets do you think are missing from their kit that they had?
Oh
Both of those were
shit.
gone. So all I had was a 8 millimeter wrench that was in the little blue bag. So I'm sitting there with like these little fucking quarter turns to get that stupid thing. And that was probably the thing that took the most amount of time, between that and trying to knock the tank strap pins loose, because the Dutch bumper kind of comes down and
Right.
wraps underneath. So you got to kind of like get your arm up and around the tank, so that way I'm avoiding bending the straps or folding the straps back. So managed to drop the tank down, which is like full as fuck, and got the flathead screwdriver trying to knock the ring off. Dude, that thing's like, it's just rust. And so
Oh.
it's cutting through it. And so I cut through like 2 out of 3 of the tabs. And I'm like, I get something else, but I'm like, wait, it's like rusty. So I actually got the screwdriver underneath the ring and like just and it just kind of folded itself. So knock that off. And
And
then,
no
dude,
compressed air, no vacuum, shit
no,
everywhere.
yeah. Um, and you know, the fuel lines came off decently enough, right? So that was good. And then, well, you
Break the
saw how the
clips?
pump. What's that?
Did you break the clips?
One. So that's the other stupid thing, right? When you get a fuel pump, they only give you the U-shaped ones. They don't give you the 4-way claw one.
Oh yeah,
So
that you
I
need the
think the
tool to pull
return
off.
line takes the weird claw one. So
Yeah.
that one I actually managed to get off and reuse.
Did they
Um,
have those? They must have had that shit, eh? Like the fuel line release deals.
I just used a screwdriver.
Oh,
My
did
own.
you? Nice.
Yeah, no, they did not have those tools. If I bought them, I guess I would have had them, but no, just use
Right.
a screwdriver. Um, pull that pump out, and it literally looked like the bottom of the
It-
Titanic.
yeah.
Like, like how is this thing even pumping fuel? And then in my head, I'm like, how is the sending unit reading fucking perfect fuel levels in this tank? Like, if
Because
this
it's
pump
just as
works this way,
corroded.
that thing
Yeah.
needs to be just as bad. So, you know, obviously, based on what was seen coming out, you know, the car was not parked with a full tank of fuel for those 20 years that it sat. It probably had a
Yeah.
quarter, whatever, and then condensation, temperature fluctuations, and everything else. So at this point, and I'm looking in there and I'm like, you know, and of course I've shaken everything up at this point and everything else. I'm like,
Yeah.
this fucking fuel is like the color of rust.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I better change this filter while I'm in here. And like and it was a new filter, and the fuel was clear coming out the filter side. So filter's doing its job. The sock was doing its job on the pump. But yeah, the fuel backflowing out of that thing, nasty.
Oh.
So,
Well, buddy, like just to I know we've said this a ton of times, but it's worth reiterating again. Like, ladies and gents, there's a reason all the old boys tell you to park your car with a full tank of fuel. Like, don't fuck around. I mean, whatever. If you miss one season, you're not going to end up in this situation. But if you're going extended periods, fill up your tank. Like, God. Now, just before, don't lose your spot in the story, buddy. But I couldn't help think about this while you were saying it because I had the same thing with the vert. Um, Fucking pump looked like it'd been on the bottom of the ocean. I can't help but think to myself, every single person that's ended up in that situation has just turfed the old pump and dropped, either cleaned the hanger or got a whole new hanger system, new pump, dropped it in, off to the races. I would be interested to know if the pump itself isn't actually like full blown failed, which lines up with your story. My car did the exact same thing, right? Ran fine, idled fine, did all the things, but then like you go for a little bit of an extended period, you start having these issues. I'd be interested to know if a person ever hung on to one of those old school pumps, cleaned it all up, got all the shit off it, and this is nothing more than just an overheat type scenario where that pump hits whatever critical mass and goes, I'm fucking not working anymore here.
Yeah.
Right?
So funny
Like,
you bring that up. The uh not strawberry, electric current red, that Pro Street whatever car that old man Mustang had that I had
yeah,
here that had the external pump on the back. It's the same thing. The tank was like disgusting. If you ever seen or smelt what race fuel does after sitting for 20 years, um, absolutely nasty. It almost turns to like a tree sap is
yeah,
probably the best way to describe it. So I had that external pump. Dude, I took the pump apart and cleaned it all out, did all the things, and had to shock it a couple times, and I got that thing working again. So, like,
right.
to your point, I do think that there's some truth in that. Like, the only thing, if the brushes are gone, then the brushes are
Yeah,
gone. But like, then technically you could order the Bosch or whatever brushes, because I've done that with the intercooler pumps and the Lightning. Um, but yeah, man, just like that debris or whatever and everything else, just working against it and overheating, 100%. Because maybe, yeah, as long as that sock's doing its job and everything else, it's not like, I mean, it's like some contaminants would be in there, but um, yeah. So I did
it's
get a
true, right?
full hanger, full pump. So it was literally just, I took that thing, I threw it in the box and threw it in the trash,
Perfect.
and yeah, that was gone. So
Yeah. Because I mean, it even lines up with the story and how these scenarios present themselves, right? It's like everything's fine, and then boo boo boo, and then you let it cool, you get a little bit more. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
technically, the pump is not fucked; it's just overheated or whatever happens, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, that in itself, especially if this was to happen to you where you didn't have an off ramp and you could get one, um, maybe this is a bit of a word to the wise. Like, clean that bitch with whatever stick you can find in the weeds there and get all the rust and shit off it. And you might buy yourself a few more miles, right?
No, for sure, man. Yeah, so it all went back together fairly well. Of course, you always wrestle the orientation of the sock and trying to get it down into you
Yeah.
know, the special little area down there. And which was interesting. That was all intact, because usually a rotted tank that separates and it'll clank in the tank. I don't know if you've had
Yeah.
that before. So all that seemed to be in place, but yeah, swap the fuel filter, and car ran fine the whole rest of the time.
Right.
But I got a cleaner tank that I took out of something. I'm just gonna swap the tank, because that
Yeah.
grommet needs to be done anyways for the filler neck. And but man, I got there. It was like I walked back in and I was like, okay, I'm all done. And like they were like, holy hell, what just happened here type deal. Um, and I'm like, can I return the jack stands? They're like, you can, just not here. I'm like, fair enough. packed him back into the box properly. Got in Knoxville, and there was no Riley's. Literally half a mile from where my Airbnb was. I returned them next morning, and man, I was like an hour delayed, which
Yeah.
was nothing in the grand scheme. And you know what? Like usually in those scenarios, like I'd be like upset or whatever, but like man, I was in such a good mood, and it was just one of those things. Like I knew what it was, and it was sort of like challenge accepted, you motherfucker. Like
Oh yeah, I'll show you.
you are not going to win this. And then I was like, and to the point, because like normally, and we've spoken about this, especially with the last hours of the ship box, when you get into those certain moments, like you're like, fuck this, I'm not filming this. But
Yeah.
like every time something happened, I was whatever. I grabbed the camera, I was okay with it.
Yeah. I
So
know. I was kind of laughing at your video because it's one of those things, right? You don't realize it when you're filming it all, but like it's the during the edit stages or during the watch back stages, and you're like, I was I didn't count, but I was like, Chris has said this is smooth sailing about 16 times right now, right? Something is bound to blow up, even though I knew it did. And I'm like, I think you jinxed yourself, buddy. Smooth sailing. Everything's good. Tunes are
yeah.
playing. Yeah. Good
Hey,
scenery.
it was smooth sailing all the way home. So or all the way back to Charlotte. So yeah, man, it was something, that's for sure. But I'm glad it
Well,
made it. I'm glad I didn't let it defeat because you know, I had my Haggerty app out because I had 100 miles of free towing or whatever, and I'm like, whatever, let me try this. Worst case scenario, you know, call the tow truck and do the thing. But nah, it all worked out.
well, and you know, buddy, as good of an insurance policy, and I say that like in whatever hypothetical terms, because obviously Haggerty is an insurance policy, but the insurance policy of like, hey, we'll tow you to safety kind of thing. Um, as good as of a thing as it is, I think anybody outside of maybe the folks that are rolling around in like, OEM stock format, it's still a pucker factor because we've all taken our cars to whatever fucking point we have. They're low or they're whatever, right? And it's like, the tow truck driver that's showing up, right? Fucking hook for an arm. It's like he just finished pulling, a 69 Chevy out of a ditch. And it's like, yeah, let's deal with your car now. Like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into, right? Maybe not. Maybe you get the guy that's got the fresh coveralls on. I don't know. But it's kind of a last resort, right?
Yeah.
Like that whole thing, it's one of those deals. It's kind of like insurance. Like you don't want to have to use it because it's not going to be good, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I've got a guy in San Antonio that's used his Haggerty to tow cars up to me instead of him having to drive them. And amazingly enough, they've been real nice flatbed units, and seem to take some pretty good care. Maybe it's just here, but like you said, you never know what you're going to get outside of your area, or who's
Yeah.
got the contract in that state, or whatever it might be. Um, but yeah, I think a major part of, I guess, staying cool and collected is like all of the shit that I've gone through in the stalker vert in my
Right.
mind. Like nothing will ever be as bad as some of those experiences. Like the West Virginia Hills Have Eyes experience, the friggin' Breaking Bad one with Lewis on Mustangs Across America. Like, dude, I was so sideways. I told Lewis, I'm like, dude, I'll sell you this car for $5 right now. I'm flying home. And he'll tell you. He's always like, I
Dude,
should have given you the $5.
I told the wife this story in our travels. It was either on the way down or on the way back. Had her in tears. Just like, fuck you, take my half of the car. I don't even give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
No, those moments happen for sure. But like you say, man, it's all part of the journey, right? Um, I know when the only little minor mishap, which actually technically wasn't even a mishap, but we did change a tire on the trailer. That was in, fuck, was that now? I think it was in North Dakota. Stopped to get fuel. And I talked to Lewis about this when we were down there. Like, I don't know what is going on, but I'm getting a really odd outer like tread wear pattern in my back rear two trailer tires. And it's almost like the camber's fucked, like in, right? And he looked at it, he goes, yeah, that is odd, right? So prior to us leaving Canada, I changed the one rear tire to my spare tire because I was just like, whatever, let's start off on a good foot here. Well, anyway, get all the way down to Tennessee. The spare, which was brand new when it went on, looks fucked now, right? But anyway, I'm like, it's fucked, but it's not like outrageously pooched. So I was gonna risk it on the way home. And we got to North Dakota and I'm like, fuck, like that outer rib is in the wear pattern. Like we're wearing the oh shit area, right? So and being like I said to you, pretty desolate there in North Dakota, I'm like, we're at a fuel stop. We got street lights. Let's pull the bottle jack. Let's get this thing flipped around, right? I don't need, and it was about 11:30 at night when we decided to do this. I'm like, I don't need to be on the side of the road having cars fly by me while I'm trying to do this. So change the tire. But anyway, to the point that you made, the wife's looking at me like, what? Like you're going to change the tire? I'm like, yeah, like how much more perfect could the conditions be for us to do this right now? She's like, it's like fucking 32 degrees out there right now. I'm like, yeah, but like whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're in a parking lot, we got street lights, we got whatever. And same mentality that you were in. I was just like, this is fuck all, right?
Yeah.
And good footage,
Could be way worse. Yeah.
you know? So, and I actually had the added advantage of my kids who could run camera for me. So we got all that shit on film, right? But
Nice.
cool experience for them, right? Abby, she goes, Dad, I'm ready to rock and roll. She's grabbing a set of leather gloves that I had and stuff. I'm like, okay, bud, let's do it. Like, this is reality, right?
Yep.
You got to do
Well,
what you
shit,
got
yeah,
to do.
actually, even Lewis had tire troubles too on the Cobra.
Fuck. And those were like, massive failure. Well, heading towards massive failure type tire issues, tread
Yeah. And
separation.
so at first I was like, man, you just got those Borbettes. You know what I mean? Like those are fresh to that car, which
Yeah.
means tires. Because he always asks me, oh, what tires do I need? Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, those are the Azenas tires. I'm like, you got those tires for your Cobra wheels. I'm like, did you take the tires off your Cobra wheels and put them on the Borbettes and do some weird Lewis stuff? He's like, oh, yeah, that's what I did. I'm like, okay. It's like, part of me was like, these tires are way too new, but like he's had the Cobras for a while, right? Couple
Right.
trips to Oktoberfest and this, that, and the next thing, right? So then I'm like, then I didn't feel as bad. I'm like, okay. I'm like, tires a little older, you know, shit can happen. God knows what pothole maybe you hit on one of the other trips or whatever. But yeah, because it was like tread separation or whatever he had going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know until your video, which is kind of funny to say because we all lived under the same roof for how many days, but I didn't realize that he had clipped like some whatever shrapnel tire or something on the interstate.
Yeah, I guess there was like some lady like in front of him that like drove into the shrapnel like head on, like just wasn't paying
Oh,
attention. So it like flipped it up. And yeah, it just like there was nothing he could do. So it kind of smucked his bumper
front end.
cover a little bit there. Yeah.
Oh, well, on that note, a funny thing that you would have gone through with us had you stuck in that same bullshit lineup that we were in trying to get into the Hard Rock. But so there would have been me, Jeff Johnson, and I can't remember who else pulled out towards the back end because we all kind of met at the what was going to be the 50 Asylum area at the convention center, and then we were all going to kind of convoy down to Hard Rock. And anyway, we were stop and go in the right hand lane because none of us live there. We don't know where the fuck we're going. We're hoping the guy at the front's got a map going, right? And anyway, Chris and Britt, they pull up beside me like, hey, dude, get out of this lane. Let's fucking move up and whatever. So he goes, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm good. I'll just hang here. I think Jeff kind of had the similar thought process. Well, we get up to the street light, stop. It's our turn to go. We pull out into it, and it must have happened like right after you guys had all gone through. But some first thing I seen was like a 3/4 inch chunk of plywood laying in the road with handles on it. I was like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? Get a little further. Here's a toolbox,
Oh shit.
hose clamps and shit all over the road. And then there was like almost like blender beaters, but like for stirring paint and shit, like
Oh
those
yeah.
big ones.
Yeah.
Fuck, those things were laying in the road. Like we were just swerving all kinds of shit. And all I could think was it was probably a like one of these bullshit toolboxes like any of us would take on the road with us kind of thing. I'm like, guaranteed there's like spare screws and all kinds of shit that probably hit the road out of that toolbox. But none of us ended up with a flat. So we must have dodged it.
Yeah, you got lucky there. Jeez.
Fuck.
Well,
And then,
actually,
dude,
I was
speaking of
gonna.
screws, all the screws around our house, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, because fresh building zone.
Fuck. I picked up 4.
Damn. So, you actually had car trouble too, because you were like stalling out.
Oh. And you know, buddy, it's funny when you were telling your story about the fuel pump scenario. I was thinking to myself because, well, yeah, I guess you weren't filming. Well, you filmed my rad support modification, but didn't film the like what could be quite easily my at least part of, or maybe all of my stalling scenario, which is it seems like my fuel tank's not venting.
All right. Yeah.
You know.
Did
Um,
you get to test that anymore after disconnecting the line,
well,
breather line?
I, sort of, but not really, because, well, I guess I'll kind of tell the story how this all unfolded. So we we get everything shined up, and we're gonna go to this Hard Rock cruise in, and so we all set off from the house, and we're I don't know what were we 10-15 minutes say from the convention center. So we got a little bit of road for everyone to get out and cruise together with, and um, as we I'm trying to think the first time it stalled on me. Might have been at the bottom of the hill, like
Like
from our
right when we
places.
turn left, like where that line of traffic was going the other way, right?
Well, dude, sadly, I think that was the third time it did it.
Oh shit.
Um, yeah. So we come down to the bottom of our road and we got a stop sign onto this kind of windy back road, and car just boo done. I'm like, oh fuck, here we go. And keep in mind, this is the wife and kids' first run in the car after a winter's worth of dicking around with it, right? Fucking star mechanic. Let's test out Gare's work, right? Boom, car falls on his face. I'm like, nobody panic. We're good, right? Fucking let's go. Fire it up, off we go. And we're all excited to be in Tennessee. Like Chris was saying, we got these windy roads down below us, like we're all having fun. Well, we get to the end of that road, hit the stop sign, boom, she's done. I'm like, oh boy, here we go, right? And the wife's giving me the side eye too. So we get out on the highway. Fucking now I'm a little pissed off, right? So I'm kind of beating on her a bit. All's well, all the way to where we're gonna turn at the where the trailer parking and shit was for the convention center. And to paint everybody a picture, it's kind of 2 lanes in, 2 lanes out, not divided highway, just all one kind of pavement tarmac section, but a big turning section, probably, well, I don't know, eighth of a mile anyway of like turning area. Well, I go to roll into this turning section, and the light was red at the time. I think I was, oh no, you were behind me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was giving you the look in the mirror like, hey, I'm fucked here, right? So we we pull into the turning section, light still red. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Light goes green. I'm like, sweet. I'm in neutral. Car's completely off, not running. I'm Armstronging the fucking car in through the turn lane. We get rolling down the side road, maybe at about 20 miles an hour, slower than I should have been going, but only slightly. And I'm like, car, you need to start. And it doesn't want to start. It's even slow turning to get it to turn over. I'm like, fuck. Now, in saying all that, I don't know why this didn't cross my mind at the time, but why the fuck didn't I just drop the clutch in second gear or whatever and bomb start it?
Yeah.
Didn't even enter my mind. I'm turning it and turning it and turning it and going, fuck me, I'm going to be stuck. There's no shoulder, you know?
Dude, it's like when I rolled backwards with no brakes in the ship box.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you know, like there's something going on, and it's like, you know, there's a solution, but it's like the one that you want to be the solution isn't fucking working.
Nothing clicks. Like,
Yeah.
and it's funny too, because any dude that listens to me say this will know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, how many times have you gone to, like, you're messing with something and it goes to fall out of your hands and you like do the foot save and you're like, whew, that was good, right? Like, fucking, I'm on my game here. But then you have these moments where you're like, I make fun of people for this. Like, why the fuck didn't I think of just dropping the clutch, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank Christ it starts. By the key. And then we whatever do our thing. We do the hard rock. Get there. Or I realize at the hard rock after we did all that stop and go driving that my 3D printed support brackets are completely fucking melted. Well, not completely, but they're deformed. All right. So that needs to go back to the drawing board. But nonetheless, we get through all that and have a few more of these little situations where the car's stalling on me, but I'm doing my best to overcome it. Like, I'm pulling out of gear and rolling in neutral to stoplights. Like, I'm thinking it's vacuum related at the time, which it still slightly very well may be. But anyway, we get back to the house that night. I said, hey, Chris, I'm going to go get fuel because I'm a little low. And he's like, fuck, dude, I got to get fuel tomorrow too. Don't worry about it. We'll go together. So it's at the fuel up the next morning. I go to pull the cap off my car and it's just right, fucking hissing and pissing. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't know. Maybe it was all the elevation changes. I'm, trying to make sense of it in my head. And then, I think it was when we got back to the house that night after the show, I pulled the cap, same thing. And then, so I put the cap back on. Chris comes out and he's like, what's going on? I said, dude, I don't know. My tank's just fucking under pressure. I had literally just put the cap back on. He pulls the cap off. It's on the same, maybe not as bad, but it's still getting that same suck going on, right? So anyway, we disconnected my breather line kind of below the passenger door, halfway up the run there. And I kind of didn't really tighten the cap back on. I just thought I'm going to give it as good a fighting chance as possible. But to answer your question, buddy, sorry, in a really long-winded way, is I was still like haunted by all the fucking stalls that I was still like overcompensating for everything. So like if I seen a yellow light 2 miles up the road, I'm in neutral. I'm rolling, I wasn't downshifting. I wasn't doing anything just for fear of not being able to get it going again. Right.
Yeah.
Those couple of hard starts got in my head. So anyway, yeah, we're going to have to do a full blown kind of revisit to a handful of things here with the car, but it would be very good to get that somewhat ironed out and figure out if that is the actual problem prior to heading back to Matthew. Because, well, if I go back to him and say, hey, your tune's not really working all that well and my tank's fucked and that's why I'm having all these stalling problems, that won't look good on me. So definitely got to iron that out. But yeah, I'm still going to go back to him. I want to try this other pulley out and figure all that shit out. But outside of that, actually, I didn't tell you this, pal. When me, you, and Britt went for dinner that night after the show, AC blowing the whole time. I was like, windows up, going, holy fuck, this is good living, dude.
Oh. And man, the wife wasn't even in the car.
I know. I got to enjoy it all by myself. Windows up, tunes just the right volume level, AC blowing. Because now, for anybody that's just freshly tuning in, I mean, this car never came with AC. I spent a lot of years sweating my bag off in this car. So to have that time by myself with cold air blowing on me, I was just like, what a fucking treat, you
Yeah.
know? Oh, it was nice, buddy.
Sweet.
And then we actually, it was when we got home that night, I think, right? Is when we started the radiator modifications.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I think I checked them when
Well,
we
no,
pulled
actually,
into that.
so we did actually a lot happened, right? Because we did our little tour, went to Dick's Last Resort, right? We all got some interesting writing on the hats they put on our heads.
Yeah.
Um, Gary got to try the Blue Flame moonshine that starts. What's it start?
Oh, dude, this is the best line ever. I got to get it right. She says, I've seen this stuff start fights, families, there's
Fires.
another fires and lawnmowers.
She was good, man. She was like a little Ruth from Ozark. It is
Yeah.
fucking priceless.
Mhm.
Um, And then yeah, so we went back and then we dropped your car and then we did emergency response for War Admiral.
Oh, yeah, right, right.
So we had to go
Well,
get some
sticking
hardware.
with the moonshine, sticking with the moonshine for a quick sec, folks. I've I can't think of a specific time, but I'm pretty much positive, somebody somewhere in my travels of partying has had a jug of this shit, and I'm sure I've tried it, but I can't pinpoint when that was. So, for what it's all worth, this was probably my first go at it officially. And I'll be honest with you, I was thinking like, because I'm not really a hard bar guy. Sure, I like a whiskey and coke or whatever, but not the type that would sit down and just nip away at a cup of tequila or something. And anyway, moonshine being moonshine, right? I'm thinking, holy shit, what are we doing here? Well, anyway, Old Smoky there has all these flavors. And, you sign up for a tasting and it's like, here, you're going to have the raspberry flavored one and the sour one and all this stuff. And in case you haven't ever done this, I take the first hit, me and Chris's bride there, and I'm like, oh, like that's quite enjoyable. And you only just get like the slightest hint of rubbing alcohol, if you will, right? Like that moonshine violent shit. So anyway, we're like 4 or 5 in, and she goes, "This one's called the Blue Flame, and it'll fucking start fights and feuds and whatever else." I'm like, okay, and it's got a blue tinge to it. I'm still thinking maybe it's raspberry, like blue raspberry or something, eh? Fuck me, man. I knocked this thing back. Me and Britt kind of look at each other with tears in our eyes, like, what was that? Well, this is it's one step below their like fucking jet fuel. It's 138 proof pure goddamn plutonium. Like it's violent. Oh, and then I go on to tell Chris, he's got his run in with what was yours, vodka that you had a run in with as a
Yeah.
kid?
Yeah.
Pretty much anyone that's done any party and's got that one booze that you overdid it on and it just haunts you
Yeah.
forever. Tequila was mine. And I'm like, fuck, man, like that kind of edges in on that for me. I'm like, oh, you know, I couldn't sit there and do any more than one of those. But all these other ones were great. Lots of cream ones. I brought a jug of the shit home too. Creamsicle. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. But
who
like
doesn't
the
like those?
Rollin and those ones, like they're amazing in coffee. And then like, well, you got the pineapple, the actual pineapple chunk,
Yeah.
right? So like they've got the first time I ever actually had Old Smoky was the cherries. And I still remember
Oh,
this. We were at so it's like, cherries that are completely absorbed in moonshine. So we were at the Texas Mile and shit, dude, this is probably going back like 12 years now. And we were like camped out at the end of the mile, which displays whatever the speed is that the card done. So we were literally there's 3 or 4 of us this jar of fucking moonshine cherries, and we'd all bet on what the speed would be, like whether you were over or you were under. I forget what the parameters were, but if you lost, you were taking a cherry.
Yeah.
And we were just like, oh, whatever, like it's like eating fucking vodka watermelon or whatever it is. But man, like, no, like they'll get you messed up. And then they started releasing like um full pickle skewer, like full blown pickles that are absorbed, which Brit loves those in her Bloody Marys.
Yeah.
So then there's peaches, like full blown
Yeah.
peaches that are absorbed in the shit. Like just again, going back to like commercializing Nashville, well, we've commercialized moonshine now and made it attractive to everybody, which
Yeah.
I'm sure some would argue. But yeah, like that Blue Flame, White Lightning was the one that got me when I did that 7 years ago with Jordan. But like, man, like now there's 3 locations. If you hit all 3, you get a T-shirt. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you sign yourself up for the 12 shots at all 3 locations,
Oh,
36
you need a
shots of that shit.
wheelchair.
Like, yeah, I was sideways after doing 12. Like you guys did 8. I'm sure if you did the
Yeah.
4 more, that would have been a real interesting drive home. But
Oh God, yeah.
so yeah, no,
It
it's fun.
the it's funny you say the fruit because out of all of the shots that came out, and actually the pineapple one that we did might have been like the first one or two. Maybe it was the first one actually.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing her like kind of pour a little bit of the juice and then put
Yeah.
the fruit on top. And I thought to myself, okay, this might not be good. And why I was thinking that is if you got to like throw fruit in your mouth and you're getting hit with something that you probably don't want to swallow, like this could end up everywhere, right? So I even said to Britt, like, how are we going to do this? Are we going to throw the fruit in first, get that over with, and then do the shot? Because I'm thinking, like, this shit's jet fuel, right? But again, it was very, very mild, the
Yeah.
flavored ones, Um, now that jet blue or the whatever the hell that shit was called, holy Christ, that is like high test,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, anyway, on with the story. Um, that's right, I almost forgot. We got the cars back to the house, and then we got the call. War Admiral was deciding the alternator. So his alternator failed on him. He was literally well, it failed the night before, right? And then he drove down just on battery power to the show.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think he noticed when he left, I guess it would have been the Hard Rock, right? Or no, wait. No, the first day. The first drive back, he noticed that he was at like 12 volts and it was dropping. And I think he got home, it was 11 or it just hit 10.9. So he had the trickle charger on it all night. And then, yeah, drove it on battery to the show and
It
then
must have been
tried.
the Hard Rock dude
Maybe it was.
because
Yeah.
because it was all our shit was still set up at the show when we helped him with the alternator, and that would have been day one because we left all our shit for day two.
Right. True. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, he had left his car there. Well, shit, when we went to Dick's and down to the moonshine thing, I don't know what the hell everybody else did. Did they go? Well, he must have went and got that alternator and just did some pissing around, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Lewis.
spray painted it on the tree.
Yeah. Spray painted because Lewis left to go get his tires. That's right. It was on the first day. Um, and then Lewis picked up the alternator because I think it came in a little early. Because that's what I told him, right? So he was busy trying to find another Power Master. I'm like, dude, you're not going to get a Power Master. Like, just get the 3G.
Yeah.
And right, like we're going from a single wire to a 3G, which there's technically one main wire and then 4 other wires that you need to mess around with to get the thing to do what it needs to do. So after pretty much telling him, forcing him to order it, it's like he was frustrated. He was at that point, you know what I mean, where he was just
Yeah.
like, "Fuck it," and it was like, "No, like let's just come up with a solution here." So yeah, he got Lewis picked up the alternator, got the pigtail, They just needed different hardware, different bolts. So we hit up the TSC there and got it on. And man, that part of the video, I love it, man. When it's as soon as that fucking screen flashes 14 volts and he's all like in disbelief that his shit's running again. Oh, I loved it.
Again, buddy, I was laughing at your video. Me taking a leak and you going, what's everybody doing? Right? Like what's going on over there?
I was like, oh,
stop this. Yeah, stop peeing on my tires. When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yep.
Yeah, and then that was the night that you got the film in there done of me and War Admiral driving home. Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and then it was the radiator mods.
Yeah, and actually that reminds me now. That was the night. Oh shit, I couldn't shake that headache. That some bitch kicked in about noon, day one of the show, and went through Dick's, went through the moonshine. I mean, Erin, I think she gave me like 4 regular strength, so like 8 hun worth of painkiller, and that didn't knock it down any. Anyway, yeah, and then there I am out there beating on the old green dragon, trying to get the fiddle fart fucking rad bracket.
Out of all the statements, because I remember you were starting on something and you're like, no, you've done enough hillbilly shit for one day.
Right.
And then I like go inside and come back and the fucking hammer's out. And I'm just like, motherfucker.
Well, funny enough, I get a text. We were on our last leg of the journey, and I get a text from Josh Kennedy. So, remember those chrome rad supports that he had, or rad brackets?
Yep.
Well, he went over to Fiddle Fart during the show as well and bought some black ones. So anyway, he texts me and he's like, hey man, you seem to get these things on your car quite quickly and quite easily. How'd you do it? And he sends me a video and it's like clunk, 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 clunk. Like they're not dropping, right?
Yeah.
Or they're not fitting. And I'm like, buddy, you don't even want to know how I did mine. And you definitely don't want to repeat the process on your 93. Okay. Like, let's just leave it at that. I said, Chris's video is coming out soon. Yeah, you'll see. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, listen, there was some heavy duty massaging that had to take place there. But yeah, he's like, I'm not doing that. I'm taking the angle grinder to the fucking brackets before I do that. I said, I would have too, but I was fucked. I had one zip tie holding my rad in, like.
Oh, yeah. No, I hope he gets those, squared away. Like some people aren't going to care. Like I think probably 8 out of 10 people will probably take an angle grinder and just take a little bit of material off the radiator support and call it done. But yeah, man, the first thing when I was so excited because like they are a nice looking piece, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, fuck these on, and I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. And like, I'm not gonna lie, man, trying it with a cutoff wheel through billet aluminum, I was still 15 minutes of bracket to like cut them open enough to get them to work.
Well, and then you're fucking all the black anodization up off them. Like, it's not the ideal solution, right? But it is to not mangle up your car. Yeah, I did actually the following day after the beating of my car, paid attention to a couple other cars that had them. Everybody had notched their car.
All right. Damn.
Yeah. So it's funny too, man. I think I even said in your video, like, well, like all of these kind of rad supports in the Fox bodies are different and some are angled and some are whatever. They're not precision cars, folks. Everybody knows that by now. So it is kind of hard to, I guess, come up with a consistent measurement for these pieces. However, I kind of got to eat my hat a little bit because you could over exaggerate that clearance to drop over that section of the rad support and still just depend on the bolt.
How about this? Anybody that's listening to this podcast that is purchased those brackets, if you were able to get them on without any massaging or clearancing whatsoever, I'd like to know, because
Yeah.
I know we give these cars a lot of leeway of, oh, you know, the gaps weren't right from the factory and they're all different and blah, blah, blah. With that said, things are pretty consistent. Like, I get that the radiator, and it's in the video, right? Like, where you can see it's a little wider and then, you know, cut down a little bit more narrow, but like they're all getting popped out of the same thing. And
Yeah.
the biggest part with, I think, all of them is right where there's that little bit of a turn, and the
Mhm.
turn just makes things wider, and everybody's going to land on that same turn. Like, I think it is just somebody tried to make the clearances too tight, and he did it with the door strikers. He made the
Right.
clearances too tight, and that's what came back and bit that, which is fine. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want stuff wobbling or necessarily loose, but you know, it's just, maybe you should test a couple more cars
It's
first,
true,
or
man.
but I
Yeah,
get
no,
it. We're talking volume. You know what I mean? When you're
yeah.
overseas and you got to be, oh yeah, can you send me a sample or send me 3
Oh,
samples or
fuck.
whatever? You're waiting on shipping. You're waiting on this. You're waiting on that. So like, there's a certain point where you got to kind of make a decision, and then there's
Yeah.
communication barriers. English is second language. This, that, the next thing. So like, I get it. I'm not trying to harp on them because, like I said, 8 out of 10 guys aren't going to give a fuck.
Well, that's just it, pal. I mean, sure, doing what I did at this point in the game, these cars are getting older, whatever, probably not advisable. Can you imagine yourself not doing that 20 years ago?
Oh
Like, you
no,
would have
man!
done
Like,
that in a heartbeat.
dude, it's the same thing. Like when we wanted to get our radios in, what do? Oh,
Yeah,
fuck, cut the harness, fucking twist the wires, electrical tape, screws
done.
with the Crutchfield installed. You're done. Like, and that's what these cars are technically worthy of. Like, that's the caliber of, if you want to
Yep.
stick with, you know, the certain type of, you know what I mean, the way that the car is, that's the type of work that the car deserves.
Yeah,
Now we're
it's
treating
true.
them like they're fucking made out of gold.
It's so true, man. Yeah. Um, so anyway, yeah, we'll revisit a little bit of that stuff. I actually, well, I could probably drop my camera and show you. I do have a couple chunks of blue paper towel under the back corner of my passenger side here. Um, you know what's kind of thrown me a little bit on this whole coolant leak that I'm alluding to Chris here is, I never. So we ran the car around, did all the stuff with it in Pigeon Forge. No drops, no nothing. I load it in the trailer, drag it 3,300 miles home, nothing. I start the fucking car to back it out of the trailer and pull it in the garage, coolant.
So, you know, yeah, this would have happened before going to Tennessee. So, you know, the 74 F whatever high boy thing that I did the Godzilla swap on.
Yeah,
So I installed a whole vintage air unit in that truck, and I had um just hooked up all the heater core lines to it, and it has like that bypass module that goes in there. I don't know if it does for the Fox as
yeah,
well. I think it'll shut
these
the
do
flow
too.
of fluid off. So whatever, everything's all hooked up. So it's the first time I'm firing the truck up because I'm taking it, or took it down the road to the guy who was going to do the final AC fittings on it. And I shit you not, I fire that thing up, and the drain tube that comes through the firewall, right? Like technically the
Yeah,
condensation drip, coolant fucking pouring right out of it. So
really?
I'm like, did it fucking blow the core? Or like, because like, it's all, the lines are all, you got to like hook them all up. And I know I was very diligent and careful on the install of all those lines, but something was tweaked and cracked, and like, it's fairly delicate stuff, like a new heater
Yeah.
core would be that you buy, whether it's Spectra or whatever it is. But yeah, man, I had to freaking loop the line. because
Huh.
now it's in the friggin' box. I'm like, man, it's brand new vintage air stuff. So, um, I meant to ask you, like, is there anything coming out of your drip line?
It's well, I
Because
mean,
that's the
first
same spot that you're complaining about,
it
like
is.
area.
I mean, okay, well, a couple things here. Yeah, because like one would assume that wouldn't be the area you'd see any of this because that's a condensation drain, right?
Yeah,
But to your point, if you got a bad core or whatever, that thing's gonna have coolant in it, like that's the drain out of the bottom of the box. Um, First blush, I'd say no. And the justification to that is I've had I've seen a little drip on the bottom back corner of my starter, right?
mhm,
Which indicates something's dropping up above it. Um, so yeah, I don't think that's my scenario. I I can't help but think it's that back bolt, right? And all
yeah,
those bottom head bolts are all the thread seal bolts, right? Um, I think I just got to pull that bolt. That'll be where I start anyway. The shitty thing is though, I can with my long tube headers and shit, I can get enough on it to like tighten it. I don't know that I could get enough on. Well, because I did make sure that it was to spec, torque spec, and everything before I came down. Maybe I could sneak that bitch out of there with the header attached, but it might be a header pull.
right.
Um, and you know what? I run them great big fucking wide shit. The gaskets.
Oh, I know the ones you're talking about. Yeah,
Fuck, and yeah, shit, folks. I'm sorry. I speak highly about them in my videos. I can't remember the name of them right now. I can see the picture, but anyway, it's a big, thick, kind of almost like lead fucking material, crushable
yeah,
material. It's the only way to run header gaskets because they don't leak. They act like a goddamn lock nut too.
yeah.
Anyway, I got those in there. And they're not a cheap gasket either. But so anyway, might have to pull that. So yeah, look at that, figure out the fuel tank. What else? Trying to think if I want to say maybe there was one other thing that popped up, but it was kind of maiden voyage for her. I had a couple little runs around town with it, and yeah, I know. I was telling my carburetor buddy that I talk about on the pod once in a while. He's like, "Did you even drive that thing before you went 3,300 miles?" I'm like, "Not really." He's like, "What a fucking beauty, like no test miles, no nothing. Let's go beat the shit out of this thing in Tennessee and hope it holds up." I'm like, "Yeah, that's kind of how it went."
Yeah, man, I gotta say, like, even the yellow car with as much suspension and everything else that I touched, like, because it was as soon as I got that thing back on the ground and dialed up the alignment as good as I could, it was straight to Keith, and then I took
Yeah.
advantage of the almost free ride to Charlotte. So, out of all the things that could have gone wrong, it was stuff that what really wasn't in my reach, and I was very pleased to confirm that there was no tire rubbing issues, which Tom is still like, "You're lucky,
Oh,
man. It's just you're lucky."
it's true. He absolutely loves the fact that you put wipers on it too, hey?
Oh man, is and I didn't turn them on. Didn't happen, but like whatever. It was a real good. I don't know. I think we all had a good time razzing each other and on all our weird
Oh,
because like everything pushes us in different ways. You know what I mean? Like the amount of times we said radiator and then alternator.
yeah.
Holy fuck. Like he got a lot of it. So whatever. If wipers makes him feel better, then great.
Yeah. I know what he's talking about. I mean shit, we've recorded enough hours, right? I mean, it's hard to pinpoint, stuff from the one we just recorded, what we talked about. But there was a rant you went on at one point in time about it all and describing the windshield treatment product and everything else. And I mean shit, he's gone as far as to say like reward offered. Like if you find me this voice clip, I need it, right? Oh, it's awesome. And fuck the fact that you got that all on film in your video too. Like those are priceless moments.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good time, man. I think we ultimately hit another home run with the crew and the house and the everything about it, you know. I'm sure everybody in their own little way, like as we all kind of parted ways and did our thing, everybody has the better half debrief, right? Like reliving moments. And actually it's funny because this group in a roundabout way, well, no, we weren't in the same house, but this group minus Tom and Aaron and Jeff did Detroit last year, right? And it was funny. One of the things that the wife said to me, she goes, "Holy shit, am I ever glad I got to spend like proper time with Laura again?" Because she goes, "You know, when we were in our own rooms and stuff in a hotel, you just don't get that same kind of living with each other and same unwind time and all that shit." She's like, "That fucking broad had me in tears multiple times. Like I can't even count how many times." I'm like, "Oh yeah, like she's a fucking beauty, that one, right? She'll get
Yeah.
you roaring." Yeah, it was a good group. And well shit, I mean, you guys, right? You were kind of, well, you guys and Lewis and Laura, no kids, right? And that all I think anyway, you could answer, but went pretty good, right? Kids were good. They did their thing and we all did ours. And
Yeah, no, the kids all got along swell. In fact, like yours, well, your youngest is like a fucking little entertainer. That's for sure. Man, she was high off cookies and fucking everything else that she could get her hands on. Uh, yeah, no, man, it was really good. And I was actually gonna say too, because we haven't talked about Dom too much. Um, but man, that I don't know if you were beside his car or you ever got the experience of that fucking blow off valve that he installed on that thing. Um, but
I
I
can't
was like, sorry.
well, it's funny because okay, I caught that scene in your video and I'm like, I wonder when the hell this happened. And then it dawned on me, me and the wife ran into Knoxville that day. So it must have happened then, hey? That you went for a
Yeah,
ride?
because yeah, like we were like out, I think wiping the cars down that morning, and it was kind of like the open or whatever. It was track day or whatever that we weren't doing, and Dom needed to get his car there that night because he was parked inside. And I'm like, dude, like you're inside for the whole weekend. He's like, yeah, I really wish, like I wanted to drive the car some. I'm like, well, let's go.
Yeah.
So I was like, kind of like the same thing. Like I told you with Mount Rushmore, I'm like, dude, let's just go drive. And
Yeah.
yeah, he just put this blow off valve on, and then he's like, oh, let's go to the Quaker State so I can get the picture in front of the Ponies mural.
Yeah.
And yeah, so no, we hopped in, and I'm sitting there in the passenger seat. Of course, that's where the blow off valve is, and I'm like, is it noisy over there for you? He's like, yeah, it sounds pretty loud. I'm like, yeah, you might want to listen to it over here because if, I know your missus is like real cool and chill, but I don't know if she's going to be this cool and chill. And sure enough, we go do the mural. He's like, man, you can drive it home. I'm like, all right, sweet. So he's over there. He's like, yeah, man, it's fucking loud. He's like, I don't know about this. Because
Well,
like unless you're into boost, right, or you're getting that thing to shut the fuck up, like it's just whoosh, like
right.
non-stop, like it's nuts.
Well, and it's a quite a violent little package, that car, hey?
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's fun, and I mean, I think he's got QA1 underneath the front of that one as well, and but yeah, like with the cage, definitely like a much stiffer
Right.
experience and effort. So man, no, real nice driving car, real tame. Um, I forget who he said did his tuning, but like same thing, really well mannered and behaviored, under, slower driving speeds or lower RPMs. It's a
Right.
beautiful car. Well, we already knew that, but it
Oh
is.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that car is something else. For anybody that hasn't spent a lot of time around that car, like it's one of those cars that the more time you spend looking, the more you're impressed. I
Yeah.
mean, at the house there, just stupid shit, like looking, and not that there's a lot of room to do this because he's kind of, everything's smoothed and, really, really tastefully and cleanly done. But, you still kind of can get a peek through, say, like behind the passenger headlight bucket ever so slightly. And if I was doing this at night, and we had Lewis's Harbor Freight light there, right? And I'm looking down in there, like where you can kind of see front body molding, like back of the bolts. And I'm like, the fucking thing is like immaculate back there. Like he is definitely, I know that he's one of those guys that would clean back in there, and like, because there's not a corner of that car that hasn't been tastefully and beautifully done. But I'm like, it is fucking immaculately clean back in there. There's no dust, there's no road shit, there's no nothing. And it's like actually not as nice of paint as on the outside, but like way better than any Fox body that exists otherwise. Like it's nicely painted back in there. It's nothing has been untouched on that.
No. No.
And I mean, we kind of hinted at it earlier, but like it's really jaw dropping and flooring that that car didn't come home with something. I mean, regardless of where your personal appreciations lie, like if you're a first gen Mustang fella or gal or whatever, like regardless of all that, that's one of those cars that no matter how much you may hate the Fox, you got to appreciate the level of detail on that car.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Like,
The thing that got me was like the statement of, because the comparison in this whole thing was the 93 limited chrome yellow, right? And they said the statement, I'd never seen a top so clean and so crisp. And it's like, okay, that car had the top up, original vinyl top. Dom had his top down, which I was like, if he had
it's
had
a
his
vert.
top up, it's a brand new friggin' canvas top that, what I mean? And let's be real, there's no vinyl top that looks good next to a canvas top. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. Like canvas is the gold and
Yeah.
vinyl is the, you know what I mean? Whatever. Pewter. Um, and I was just like, what were you guys really looking at?
Mm.
Like, but whatever, man. It is what it is. It just kind of sucks because it sounds like he was perhaps robbed of something the last time he did pits. I don't know the whole story. And like to some people, that stuff is important. You know what I mean? Like me and you
Yeah.
have talked before. It's like whatever. I'm the guy who forgets to put the thing in the window.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's I don't need it. But actually, the jugs are cool. I wouldn't mind having a jug. If I could have bought a jug, I would have bought one just so I could have the
Yeah.
memory. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a little unfortunate, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, buddy, I was talking to the wife on the way home about this, and I said, it's really, I don't even really know the best word to use to explain this, but like it's definitely an odd feeling to have, like this. Obviously, the longest driven award is one thing, but like, to have your car picked for something else, I said it's really a weird feeling for me because I can remember back in whatever the latter couple of years of high school or being home for the summer when I was away at college and ratting around in this car. I said I had a buddy that had a 94. I've talked to you about this car before, but yellow double decker Celine rear wing, had some purple flames on the hood that he had done, a bunch of interior shit painted. Outside of that, it was lowered and maybe had a K&N, like nothing outrageously fancy. Anyway, the local car show would come around every year and he's like, dude, are you putting your car in? I'm like, no, like really? And they were only a few, well, more than a few, but they were still a young car at the time. I'm like, I don't know. That's for the 64 and a halves. You know what I mean? Like, meh. He'd go every year. And I was like, I don't know. It just, something about it didn't feel right to me. And outside of the group that we currently have, this foxbody community, and like all of us getting together and, like I said earlier, fighting the same fights and all this stuff. I think if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have any inclination to take my car down to a car show. Like none,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
man, it's I don't know. It's not for everybody, right? Because it's almost like an inconvenience, right? Like
Yeah,
you got
it's a
to
lot of
pull in,
dicking around.
you got to park, and then it's like you can't necessarily leave early, and um, you know what I mean. So it's like you just kind of, it's like being on a boat.
You're there.
Probably the best way. It's like you're there, and then you're committed, and you're stuck. Where it's like that's why I like cruisins. Cruisins I'm okay with, especially if you know a couple people you're going to see. Cruise in, cruise out.
Yeah.
Um, and you know what I mean, just don't like take away the formality from it. And again,
Yeah.
like the formality is cool, but it's cooler when you really just don't give a shit. Like with the ship box, it was like whatever. The car made it here. We said we were going to get it here. Here we are. You know, let's relax and not worry about anything else. But like for something like Tom going through Good Guys, like,
Yeah.
man, what a stress levels and everything else. You're going through all these tests and durability challenges and this, that, and the next thing. And it's like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a lot to be said about that whole experience and doing everything else. But like, I'm not built like that's not what I'm after. Like, I'm there
Yeah.
to support. I love going and supporting him and whatever it is, you know what I mean? Moral support. But that's a lot. That's where it's like the passion is overlapping into something else, you know what I mean? It's almost like a job at that point, or you're on a mission, which
Yeah.
we're all different. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with whatever. And I think that just all kind of comes down to the way we are as car people and our passions. We all do it differently. Some guys just want to detail their cars. Some people just want to say they own them. Some people want to drive them. Like me, I'm not even a guy who really enjoys driving that much
Right.
unless it's on twisties or something, or we're doing a road trip that's purposeful. So yeah, it's like different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. I agree, man. I'm not the and I don't think I ever will be. It's just how I'm wired, but I'm not doing the whole like hop in, dear. We're gonna take our matching lawn chairs and do the thing. Like it's just, I don't know. That I appreciate the other side of it all, right? I appreciate the build. I appreciate the, like you say, if you do have the opportunity to whatever be out and have a little cruise in, pull in, whatever, or like you say, you're just going out to blow off some steam and enjoy your car. That's where it's at for me. Like that's the kind of the pinnacle of it all. But the the shows, yeah, they're a lot. And I don't know. I don't know if it's a thing that you just like, I hate to say it this way, but almost like a pretentious thing. Like, hey, everybody, look at this thing that of mine. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm deeper than that. Like I want to know the person. I want to know the story. I want to know the whatever versus just the billboard style showcase. It's just, it feels weird to me, Um,
Well, and
but
I
that
think
said,
that goes back to what we were saying, like with the asylum group and these people that
right,
are more focused on the car, not necessarily the story of the car or the person behind the car or any of those things. You know what I mean? So like that's I think where all the importance is, because it's um those characteristics that what I mean, mesh the owner with the car and everything else that
yeah.
makes something so unique and special.
Well, that's just it, man. And like, you know, maybe it boils back down to like this whole, I don't know, kind of air quote throwaway sedan that these kind of were, right? Like, do we really have any business? I know this can be spun both ways. I should preface it and say that, but like, do we really have any business parking beside, the 70 Mach 1. Like, you know what I mean? I got an
Yeah.
LX notchback. Like, I don't know. Now, 93 Cobra, maybe there's a little bit of a different argument for that or whatever, right? But
I don't know,
this
man.
is
After seeing like 2,326 of them at pits, like, are they really that rare?
well, yeah.
Actually,
But
black ones seem to be rare. I think I saw
yeah,
like 2 black ones, but um, yeah, no, it's all kidding aside. Um, it's neat, but yeah, it's still odd. And I guess what is it like? The barrier has been broken, like that. These cars are essentially as valuable or whatever sought after as what a true classic is. Like it's defied all of the classic car rules. It really has.
buddy, we've talked about this like whatever quickly before, but you take like a 65 coupe, which both of us have said, we'd pick that over a fastback any day. Those things are selling in like low mile clean format for under 20 grand.
Yeah.
Like Fox bodies are proceeding that heavily, you
Yeah.
know? Like that's pretty wild. And sort of contradicts what I'm saying about all this, right? Like, look, everybody I think at this point in time knows how much I love these cars. So I'm not shitting on them in any way. I just kind of, I don't know. They're the working man's car, right? And our community has turned it into something that is more so than that, and keeping this goofy little lineage of these cars alive. Like I love every second of it, and like you said, that's what made the 50 Asylum kind of showcase so cool, right? Like a little mini Motor City or Foxtoberfest or Chocolate Fox. Like we had that at Pitts, and it was pretty neat to do that in and amongst the slew of S550s and 64 and a halfs and everything else, right? Um, which I love those all too, but I think it was neat to have a little presence in and amongst all of that, you know?
No, for sure, man. And yeah, I think I was in terms of the show at large. Like, yeah, S550s are annoying, and yeah, there was a lot of them, but didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. Like, I thought it would be like a bunch of challengers out on the road and whatever else. I think people were fairly respectful to the rules of the road and everything else. I don't think we saw any crowd wipeouts or anything like that occur. There was a few little accidents that happened, but of
Yeah.
different, reasons behind them. But yeah, it was like a well behaved. Because I was concerned, man. Sometimes, like the LMR cruising, for instance, all those S550s rolling into the Texas Motor Speedway and rolling out, and it's just like, oh my, like it almost makes it unenjoyable.
Right. Well, a couple thoughts on that. One is I find it kind of funny that, and I wonder if this is a similar thought process to what happened or what some of us have experienced, say
The
in the
MCA guys
90s.
against foxbody guys.
Well, this is it, right?
Yeah.
Like some of us have experienced this. It depending on when you got into all this and how early it was that you owned one, but the first gen guys kind of frowned upon the R gen, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's interesting to consider when you overlay that with the S550 crowd. I brought this up at the house, right? I'm like, are we now the crotchety old guys that are
But
going
aren't the
like, oh,
S550 crowd like there's a bunch of boomers driving those, isn't there?
well, that's true too. Yeah.
Because I think like when Fox bodies came out, it was all the young, like the yuppies or whatever the hell they would have called us, right? Like, and
Yeah.
then the boomers stuck with that. And I feel like, I mean, they just skipped over the Fox bodies. And then they were
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, we want something new and related. Like as soon as the S197 came out, kind of like brought back the original vibes or
Flair.
styling components. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause I think it's like a blended community because I see a lot of older dudes. It's kind of like Corvettes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You always see the older guys with the new Corvettes. So I'm wondering, what that dynamic is like. Like it'd be interesting to grab, like split the S550s and see, okay, who are the young guys with the friggin' uh, machine gun tune fucking
Yeah.
backfire shit versus, you know what I mean, the boomers and the New Balance that are in them that want to go after a new Corvette or whatever it is, and then just see
Yeah.
what they think of each other.
For sure. And now the other point I was going to make is I, I'm genuinely curious to know, like, I'd like to speak with someone that has one of these like outrageously raspy S550s and be like, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here. I need you to explain to me what part of this you find enjoyable. Like, I'll give you every opportunity. Okay. Like, I won't even tell you how I feel about it, but you probably already know how I feel about it. And because again, bud, like if you were to overlay that whole first gen, third gen bullshit that some of us have experienced, it's like, were we the raspy loud guys? And now I don't think that was the case because
No,
we've
because
been
the small
talking about
blocks sounded the same. Like the
that's
first
just it.
guys would have had Flowmasters on. Maybe it's the boomers that have the S550s and they can't hear properly.
Well, maybe, right?
Like they're part deaf or
'Cause-
something. So like they need that exhaust or I don't know.
right. And because this is my sort of my justification to it is I'm like, okay, like we like all of us have loved 40s, Flowmaster 40s, then all the way through to now. And I mean, we've talked about that yellow one of yours that's got the classic 40s on it. It's like, fuck, man, like that is the sound, you know? And truthfully, I have never ran into a single individual that has said they do not love the sound of a Fox ever. No one has ever said to me they sound like shit or they hurt their ears or they whatever. So, you know what I mean? Like, I guess that's my justification for not feeling like these S550 guys. So anyway, I want them to explain this to me. Like, is this just a sheer noise that you're after? Or like do you guys really think that this is rivaling a Flowmaster 40? And
Yeah.
stage is yours. You know what I mean? Like sell me on this cuz there's a bunch of us that think you guys are fucked. I mean
Yeah,
and-
like because like I'm thinking about it in my head, right? Like my blue M5, for instance. Like loud as fuck, louder than it should be in all seriousness. But there was something to be said when you heard that car at 8,000 RPM. Like it
oh,
sounded
wide
like a
open.
fucking Formula One car.
Yeah.
Um, S550, no. And then especially like this let off the gas stuff. And like a lot of the Euro guys are doing it too. Like the new BMWs, new Mercedes, this whole backfire fucking shoot flames out the back. Like that's some yuppie stuff. But
Yeah.
like that's where, like I said, I think there is a divide of the S550 crowd of older versus yuppie. And I'd be curious to kind of get a take on, who'd be good for that mission is
Hmm.
Lance. Lance would be a
Yeah.
good guy to do a whole little comparison. I'll message him and get him on that.
Yeah. Cuz I've heard some really nice sounding newer Coyote 5 liters. Funny enough, after 6,600 miles in my mom's pickup, which has bone stock exhaust on it, that truck, I mean, I heard a lot of 4,000 RPM sounds that it makes. It sounds great. Like, it really does check all these boxes. I'm like, I don't know how these guys have turned something that sounds like that in OEM format into this just violent. I can't even explain the sound, but I know everybody knows it. Like it's just
Oh, it's straight
fucking
pipe. Like it sounds like cherry bombs on a 6-cylinder back in the day. They're like
yeah,
times two almost. You know what I mean? Like, um, is probably the best way, because yeah, like even Jerry's, the Coyote swap I did in his car, I think he put like, what are those super cheap mufflers? Jones? Like the
Oh yeah.
knockoff Flowmaster, whatever, $30 a muffler through Jegs or some shit. Um, those with, because he didn't want it overly loud. And like that car actually sounds decent, but
Yeah.
it's that straight piped high pitch, like
Crackly.
raspy. Yeah, like I don't know, man. I
Yeah,
don't know
because
what the deal is.
I know mom's truck, I mean, it's more motor sounds than exhaust sounds, but like it actually does have a nice kind of overall round sound to it. And that's kind of how I explain these sounds. Like if a nice sound in small block Ford has a nice round, throaty noise to it, right? But these new dual overhead cam fucking modular things, like I don't know, they're really susceptible to that high pitched like noise pollution. Like these that's actually something worth considering, because it's like, hey, look, at the end of the day, all of us like a nice sounding car and we like to hear them and whatever. Like, guys, you got to realize like you're kind of part of the problem for all of us, because we're all going to get grouped into this together. Right. And if you're out there running your car up to 6,500 and letting off the gas and letting that thing fucking slow itself down, people are going to call the cops, you know? Um, it's actually funny enough. This is going to make me sound like a bit of a hippie, but the guys that are rolling around in the diesels blowing coal, like, or rolling coal or whatever, right? And listen, I've had some diesels that do that. I was young too. Whatever. I watched a guy the other day roll through town, and it was definitely a stick shift, right? So this guy could throw this thing down at like 750 RPM, put it right to the floor, and just throw logs of smoke out the tailpipe. And that's all he did between every street light for miles. And I'm like, bud, look, we get it. Okay. Whatever. You're all tuned up and fucking ready for races. But you're wrecking it for the whole automotive community. Like, this is why some fucking yuppie calls the EPA and goes, look at what they're doing to the environment, right?
Yeah.
It's like, just, settle it down a little bit, It's like all of us, like, Spano's car, nice car, very loud, whatever. The guy is not going to fly through neighborhoods with it. You know what I mean? None of us do. Like, and plus we're all older and consider kids and all this stuff, but like, it's that young, dumb mentality that really fucks the whole community. I mean, the automotive community at large. When you're not considerate of others, And yeah, this fucking bozo and his Cummins, I was like, dude, come on. Okay. We get it.
Yeah.
Fucking cool your jets, Anyway, now we're getting old and crotchety. We're probably fucking ready to wrap this bitch, eh?
Yeah. I'll hit the 302. There we go. Let's keep it small block.
All right, let's do it there. Okay, well, folks, if we seen you at the show, thank you so much for stopping in. I know I speak for both of us. We had some great chats, great conversations, saw some folks that we've never seen before, even at the North Carolina shows. A lot of folks came over from the Carolinas, which was awesome.
Yep.
And obviously some beautiful cars. We should have said this earlier. I'll make sure and I say it in the intro so it is said early on, but massive thanks to the 50 Asylum boys. They fucking killed it.
Yeah. No, great time, great people, great show, great experience, great memories now.
100%.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep her at 302. Thanks for listening, folks.